All right, we ready to go live? All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go ahead and call this regularly scheduled August 14th Commission meeting to order. I want to begin with an approval of the agenda. I have no additions or changes or amendments. I have a motion from Commissioner Martin and a second from Commissioner Clark. I do want to notice that we are down. Commissioner Mazon is out tonight. Commissioner Coleman made it here just in time. Perfect. No comments, questions on the agenda as it was published from the dais. Any comments, questions from the public on the agenda as it was published? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. I'd like to invite Pastor Armin Lowry from Fresh Wind at Mount Zura to give tonight's invocation. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will follow immediately. Pastor Lowry.
As we bow our heads in the presence of the Lord, Father, we thank you for allowing us to come together on tonight for this commission meeting on this date. And we pray, Lord God, as they move forward in business, that you guide us, guide their minds, give them wisdom, and give them understanding, and all that takes place in this city, Lord, and the perimeter of this city. We ask, Lord, that you would continue to guide us in all the things that we undertake to do, that our citizens will be pleased, but more than anything, Lord, that you will be pleased when we do justice and we do the things that carry out good business. We thank you for that in Jesus' name. Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Lowry. All right, ladies and gentlemen, your commission likes to hear from their public soon and often, so we set aside a public announcement time at the beginning of the meetings. These are 2-minute public announcements. If you have anything you want to let the commission or the folks watching at home know, if you have a more controversial comment that you'd like to make to the topic, we have a 5-minute section at the end of the night. So if you need a little bit more time, you can wait till then. Would anybody like to tell us you got a garage sale going on or a lost dog or anything like that happening you want to let us know about? Seeing none? Okay, we will move on to presentations. Our first presentation is from our city manager, Mr. New, about all of our graduates from the CPM program.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We really worked hard as a team to make sure our staff is always reaching higher goals in terms of training and ways that they could better serve. Let me turn that off. Backfeeding. And Mr. Mayor, whenever your leadership sets the pace for that, it's always a special day. And we have a group of executives in the city of Newberry that all signed up to participate in a program called Certified Public Manager. It's a national program that provides training and development for people that work in government. And so Newberry found out about the program. It's a 2-year program. So 2.5 years ago, found out that it was there and that it would train us in leadership to be better at our craft. And 6 of our team signed up immediately. And they have gone through this program now. Like I said, it's 2 years. There's a lot of travel involved. There's homework involved. There's assignments due every week. And is it once a month that you guys are in class or once every other month? Okay, so 8 different training sessions. And so really large work effort for them. And they've completed that training program now, and they were recognized by the group that graduated back at the end of July, and we wanted a chance to recognize them in front of our commission, in front of the community, and brag on them a little bit about the significant accomplishment. And again, I say that they are setting the pace. There was one slacker in the city that missed the application deadline. I know y'all can't believe that somebody would miss an application deadline, but miss the application deadline. So, so round 2 begins in September. I managed to get my application in for it. So I'm going to follow, ride their coattails. Hopefully I can borrow homework assignments. Mr. Mayor, you did not hear me say that. And after going through it, they all lauded it. They came back and said, hey, if you want to be serious about being at the top of your game in public service, you need to go through the program. So I believe we're a host site for the one that's coming up. But I just wanted to introduce the 6 that participated and ask you guys to recognize them for the significant effort they put in just so that they could better serve our residents and our elected officials. They are Judy Rice, our city clerk. Jamie Jones, Assistant City Manager. Dallas Lee, Assistant City Manager. Travis Parker, Parks Director. Brian Thomas, Director of Planning and Economic Development. And Tammy Snyder, our Customer Services Manager. So the team pointed out that during the process of all of this, y'all, our commission, adopted our core values. And when we adopted them, they were coming back to me saying, hey, everything that the commission adopted as our city's core values perfectly dovetails with the curriculum, what we're going through. Said, you know, couldn't have drawn up a script any better. So those values are teamwork, respect, accountability, innovation, leadership, and service. And our folks say that this course just emphasizes that, and our residents, again, are better off for these folks putting in that extra time to be better at what they do. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, that is awesome, and on behalf of the commission, we always appreciate when our employees take their own time to go out, hone their craft, learn new things, bring them back here, and I always love to hear that Newberry is setting the pace when it comes to our own visioning, where we want to go, and that other people are following us. That's why we're hosting, right?
That's
said,
correct.
Well, Newberry, y'all are doing this already. We'll come to Newberry. So that's wonderful. Well, thank you all for your 2-year commitment. Homework. Whew, speaking my language, right? Yeah, homework. That's great. Okay, well done. Next item on the agenda is a FMEA presentation. We have met Miss Amy down here before. Jamie, do you want to jump in before we move on?
I was just asked to introduce Amy Zublia.
I'm so sorry.
Florida
She
Municipal,
definitely deserves an introduction.
the Executive Director of the Florida Municipal Electric Association.
And she
Thank you,
throws
Jamie.
a great trip to D.C. If you ever need to go to D.C., she will show you around and help you get everywhere. So, Ms. Amy?
Thank you for that,
Tell us
Mayor
about
Marlowe. Thanks for having me here, Mayor and Commissioners. It's great to be here. This was telling Mike earlier, this is one of the parts of my job that I love, and it's being able to come and talk about the association and who we are and what we do, and then have a little special thing at the end as well. So let me make sure we're on here. Before I talk about FMEA a little bit, I just wanted to put this graph up here. You all are one of 33 municipal electric utilities in the state. Collectively, we serve more than 1.5 million customer meters, or about 15% of the state's population. Large utilities like JEA and Orlando and Lakeland, and we have many smaller utilities, smaller than you are, that are just about 1,000 customers, give or take, any day. So that's just a little bit of a snapshot on who we are in this state. So what is FMEA? Florida Municipal Electric Association. Let's see, I'm not clicking. There we go. I don't know if I did that or you did that. Okay. So we are the statewide trade association that represents all 33 municipal electric utilities in Florida. Our primary roles and responsibilities are advocacy, both at the state and the federal levels, mutual aid coordination and emergency response. We also put on a lot of educational opportunities and events, and offer a lot of communication opportunities. And we'll talk about all of those here in just a little bit. We're located in Tallahassee, just a few blocks from the state capitol. So if you're ever up there and you need a home away from home, you're welcome to drop by the office. There's only 6 of us up there. We wear a lot of hats, and we have been around for 80 years now. We celebrated our 80th anniversary just last year. So I think that one of the most important things, particularly in the last 6 or 7 years, is our role regarding mutual aid and disaster response. We've had many hurricanes upon hurricanes over the last 5 or 6 years. Just this last year, we had Hurricane Ian and Hurricane Nicole. FMEA coordinated mutual aid for both of those storms. For Hurricane Ian, we brought in more than 750 line workers from 23 different states. And another 100 during Nicole. So if you have an afternoon thunderstorm and you need a little extra help, we get a call in at FMEA from Jamie or one of his people, and we'll reach out to Gainesville or Ocala or whomever that we can get here quickest. But in an event like a hurricane, when it's widespread, we have to go out to other states, and we reach far and wide working with our national association. FMEA also serves as your liaison to state and federal entities. So we serve as the liaison to the State Emergency Operations Center, the Public Service Commission, the Division of Emergency Management, and then we work with our national association, APPA, the American Public Power Association, to serve as that liaison between you all and the federal government as well during emergency situations. So we handle all that fun outage reporting. I know that during hurricanes, you've seen those statewide outage reports. All of our members report those outage numbers to FMEA, and we submit them into the state EOC as well. We provide a lot of preparedness activities for our members. We hold an annual hurricane forum every year. This year, we had an opportunity to partner with APPA and the United States Department of Energy to hold our first ever statewide tabletop exercise with all of our members. So we had all of our utilities that were able to get together, work through a scenario of a storm coming in and handle different events and situations, but they got to work together with different utilities, and it was a really beneficial opportunity for all of our members. We've developed some mutual aid agreements and trying to get them a little bit more adaptable to FEMA. Somebody asked if I was with FEMA earlier. Even though we have the same letters, I am not FEMA, but I do try to help out on the FEMA front. And we just held a FEMA procurement workshop and created a procurement toolkit for our members to try to help streamline some of that FEMA process, which is the storm after the storm. We do a really great job restoring power, but then we have the second storm. And I wanted to put this slide up here real quick and just talk about Hurricane Ian very briefly. That green line, which is the top line of that tracking chart, that's what we thought was going to happen. That's what we prepared for. That's what we planned for. That bottom line, which is that purple and red line, is the track that Ian actually took. That yellow circle that I just put up there shows the core of our membership that was significantly impacted from Ian. And so the reason I wanted to put that up there is if that track had taken what it was supposed to, what we planned for, and you move that yellow circle over, you all here in Newberry would have been in a much different situation. And so collectively in Florida, we were very fortunate on the track it took. We did have a lot of impacts. We had more than 212,000 of our members that were without power. 23 of my member utilities used mutual aid assistance. But within the first 24 hours, as the hurricane was still bearing down on parts of the East Coast, more than almost 60% of our customers that had lost power had already been restored. Within 48 hours, we had about 80% restored, and with 72 hours, 99% of Florida's public power customers were restored. So we've got a really great, fantastic mutual aid program in this state, and I'm really proud of that.
Can I just pause
You sure
on
can.
that point, because that is a point that as you're talking to state legislatures, we need to continue to repeat, because it's my understanding that we beat most of the private sector.
Absolutely.
Right? And so sometimes we get a bad rap, and the data just does not show that to be true, right?
Yep.
We are much more responsive to our residents than some others out there.
That's an excellent point. And, you know, when we bring in the crews, we're bringing them straight into like a community like Newberry. We're not having to spread them out across the whole eastern seaboard. And so we're bringing the crews right into the heart of where they're needed the most. So excellent point. Thank you, Mayor. Advocacy, leading right into that, another really important role for FMEA. That we had a very active legislative session just for municipal utilities this last year. There were 1,873 bills filed during the legislature. We picked out of all of those 1,800, about 67 of them that had potential impacts to either electric utilities or local governments or the combination thereof. And those were our 67 that were on our tracking list. We send a report out every week during the legislative session, giving updates on those pieces of legislation or anything else that may come up our ways. I know that many of you were very closely watching some particular pieces of legislation that were filed that were very harmful toward municipal utilities. And they threatened our governance structure and our ability to reinvest in our communities and to provide reliable and affordable power to our customers. FMEA led a member advocacy campaign, and along with our lobby team in Tallahassee, we were able to fight off and defeat these harmful pieces of legislation. Many of our member utilities and governing board members, such as yourself, came to Tallahassee. Mike did as well, and your advocacy helped defeat those bills. And that is one of FMEA's biggest strengths, is that we have the opportunity to pull 33 of our member communities together with leaders such as yourself and communicate with one voice. And so thank you all for the work that you did this past session. At the federal level, Mayor Marlowe mentioned about DC. We our National Association does a yearly legislative rally, and Mayor, you've been up to that when we meet with all of our congressional members from the Florida delegation. FMEA continues to advocate on your behalf with our delegation. We spearhead efforts with Senators Rubio and Scott and Congressman Dunn and Soto to reintroduce a piece of legislation called the FEMA Loan Interest Payment Relief Act. We introduced this bill a couple of years ago, 2 years ago in Congress, and it actually passed the House. It didn't get a hearing in the Senate, and so the bill sponsors, which were Florida members, reintroduced that bill. And what that bill would do is that if you are hit with a massive hurricane here or a big tornado and you have a very large bill that you will be hoping to get reimbursement back from FEMA, and you have to take a loan out to cover that bill, this piece of legislation would allow the interest that you accrue on that loan to also be reimbursed by FEMA. So this is an important piece of legislation, and we're hoping that we can get it through this Congress. We've also initiated some letters. Congresswoman Kat Kammick just spearheaded a letter on our behalf. It's a delegation letter to the United States Department of Energy Secretary to help alleviate the supply chain challenges that we're facing within the electric utility industry. We're having a lot of difficulties getting transformers and other electric supplies, and so she spearheaded a letter from the delegation asking the Secretary of Department of Energy to help alleviate this problem. I can't say that it has solved it, but we just need to continue down this road of trying to get relief. And then the IIJA, I'll do a little alphabet soup here, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which is also known as the BIL, or the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, along with the IRA, which is the Inflation Reduction Act, and I have no idea how it reduces inflation, but both of those pieces of legislation from the federal government have a lot of grant opportunities, particularly for electric utilities, and we've contracted with a firm within FMEA to help us monitor and track all of these grant opportunities and what those grants could be used for within a municipal electric utility. So that's another service that we're providing to our members. I mentioned events and education. Hurricanes and bad legislation aren't the only thing that keeps us busy at FMEA. Many of you all have been to our annual conference that we hold every July. We also hold in the fall an Energy Connections Conference and Trade Show. We do a Florida Lineman competition. I mentioned our Hurricane Forum and our statewide tabletop exercise that we just held back in May. We also hold a lot of topic-focused roundtables, so whether they be focused on customer service or key accounts or safety personnel, we get together all of the member utilities. It's an opportunity for utility employees to be able to interact with other utilities, share best practices, and learn from each other. And so these are just some of the numbers over the past year at some of our events. Over the last year, we've held more than 20 events and had more than 2,000 attendees collectively at all of those. Communications and information. FMEA is the voice of Florida Public Power. We collectively represent all of the members. We produce a weekly headline news that is a compilation of industry-related news articles and links that we send out every week. If any of you would like to be on that, just reach out to me and we can add you on that distribution list. We create and we publish a quarterly magazine called Relay Magazine. I know we have featured Newberry from time to time on that. If there is a project or a really cool thing that you all are doing on here, let us know, because we'd love to continue to feature you in that magazine. I believe it is still the only statewide electric utility magazine in Florida. We do a lot of email promotions. Those of you in here can attest on the number of emails that we send out. I'll talk about our bill comparison here in a minute. And then if you don't follow us on social media, please do. We have very active social media accounts, from Facebook to Twitter to LinkedIn. Pick your poison, follow us on one or all of them. And we share a lot of information on there. I mentioned the bill comparison. You all may have seen this chart before. Every month, FMEA compares the electric bills of our 33 municipal utility members along with the 4 investor and utilities. It's broken out as 5 because Florida Power and Light Service territory is split between the mainland and the northwest portion. So the IOUs are the ones that are there in yellow, and the blue, I know you can't read these names, the blue are our 33 members. That solid line on the bottom, that horizontal line, is the average rates of the municipal electric utilities in Florida, and that dotted line is the average of the investor and utilities. This is the last report, the latest one from June. Municipal electric utilities on average are about $32 cheaper right now than investor and utilities. And I circled Newberry so you all can see where that is, and you are below both the average of the municipal utilities as well as below the average of the investor owned. So great job to you all on that. And then finally, there is really no better way to promote the good work of our utility members than being able to present them with awards. And over the last year, we gave out nearly 60 awards to our members on safety performance, community involvement, storm restoration, not to mention the 46 trophies that we gave out to the Florida Lineman Competition. If you ever have an opportunity to come to one of those, I encourage you to do so, because it is a phenomenal event and a great day and to go and watch that. This next year is up in Jacksonville, so it's not going to be too far away. We also nominate or provide recommendations to our members, both utilities and individuals, for APPA awards. And I do want to take this opportunity to give a shout out to Jamie Jones for recently receiving the 7 Hats Award. Congratulations to you. And that 7 Hats Award recognizes managers of utilities that have fewer than 2,500 customers, because they wear 7 different hats doing many different jobs. So congratulations, Jamie. But now, if you also notice, there's an individual's name that is bolded on that slide for receiving what I would call FMEA's highest award, and that is our Member of the Year Award. And so, Mr. Mayor, if there's any questions, I can take them. Otherwise, if we have another agenda item that would flow nicely into that.
Do we have any questions? Okay, let's flow, but before we flow, I have to fess up, because I had a little white lie when we approved the agenda. I actually do have something else that I want to slide here on the agenda, because before Mike could be a Member of the Year, some other things had to happen first, right? And for most of us, we know that approximately a year ago, Mike underwent, some trauma in life that could have been the end, and we're very grateful that it was not the end. So we wanted to take this moment while FMEA is recognizing Mike as Member of the Year to do a little bit of other recognition as well. So I'm going to read this proclamation before we get to this award into the record. He who helps you in your worst moment deserves to be your best hero. And I can't pronounce the name of the person that wrote that, but I thought that was a perfect quote. Whereas Newberry is and has become a city admired by all for our ability to grow, face and overcome challenges, and lead by example, whereas that accomplishment is in no small measure due to the work and dedication of our city manager, Mike New. Whereas in recognition of all that he has done for our community and the peril that would have ensued had we been denied his leadership, whereas in recognition that heroes come in all different forms, each placed by the hand of Providence, whereas Melinda New not only saved her husband's life, but the life of a friend to and leader of our community. Whereas in recognition that we would not be the same town today without her quick actions, and that we would have lost not just a valued colleague, but a true and steady friend. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Jordan Marlowe, on behalf of the Newberry City Commission, do hereby proclaim and salute Melinda New as one of Newberry's true hometown heroes.
Thank you. That is.
Thank you. Come here, gonna get some.
I'm crying.
Turn it around.
Brush my hair.
Thank you. And thank you.
Thank you.
So because of Melinda, we're here tonight to recognize Mike. But we do value you and everything that you were able to do. None of us want to think about what would have happened had you hadn't joined him. Was that an FEMA conference that you were on?
It was.
Look at that. Just meant to happen tonight, right? All right, now let's continue with the regularly scheduled published agenda.
Great. I got to put my glasses on because I'm going to read this. So as I mentioned, as staff and executive director, I would consider our Member of the Year award our biggest award that we give out, and it's one of our biggest honors. So it was a pleasure to be able to bestow that award to Mike New this year. And if it's okay, I know that not all of you were able to be there. I'd like to read the little bit of a script that was used during the annual banquet to announce his award. And this award is kept secret from everybody. The only people that know about the award are staff, and then our presiding officer over the banquet, and Melinda knew because I had to make sure that Mike wasn't going to skip out on the banquet for some reason. So Melinda knew as well. I know.
He misses deadlines for classes.
So we just had to make sure. So I did tell Melinda about it in advance. So this year's Member of the Year award goes to a visionary leader in utilities, public power, and local government. A graduate of the University of Florida with a degree in engineering, this person approaches complex infrastructure challenges with a well-rounded perspective, combining technical acumen with strategic decision-making, leading to a quick rise through the ranks of the regional utility company. Later, a transition to local government management allowed the recipient to expand their impact as public services director before moving on to another municipality to manage the city. Under their guidance, the small-town city has experienced unprecedented development, attracting new businesses, revitalizing neighborhoods, and enhancing the overall quality of life. That's here in Newberry. His remarkable achievements in leadership have earned him numerous leadership positions and accolades throughout his career, including serving on the boards of both FMEA and the Florida Municipal Power Agency, serving as president of the Florida Municipal Electric Association, and one of the longest-serving members of the executive committee in FMEA history, and earning APPA's prestigious Larry Hobart Seven Hats Award in 2017, which recognizes utility managers who serve smaller public power communities and whose variety of responsibilities extends well beyond those of a manager at a larger utility. In his personal time, you can find him on the water or exploring new destinations, sharing adventures, and spending time with his wife and their children and grandchildren. As someone who learned early in life, playing sports, that you can't control the level of God-given talent you have, but you can control your effort, this leader is 100% of the effort for 100% of the time, especially during his testimony before the Florida legislature this year defending public power. It was an honor to present FMEA's 2023 Member of the Year Award to Mike New, and to be able to stand in front of you all and recognize him. Congratulations. Thank you all.
Lots to celebrate here in the city of Newberry. All the public manager certifications and classes, awards. We got a good thing going in Newberry, and
Mayor, before anything, can I say?
please do.
When this all occurred, Amy, I could love to just say thank you from last year, and then this year. It's been a pleasure. It's only my second year going. It's a class act. But for what you did in your leadership to help Mike New and his family in this city, when it all transpired, I'll say thank you. You were boots on the ground.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate you coming tonight. And all hometown heroes get the side benefit of leaving the meetings early as well. So we're going to be here till about midnight. So.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You remember the year. Yeah. Okay, so that moves us on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as it was published? I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, second from Commissioner Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Motion passed unanimously. It moves us to item 8, which is legislative second reading of ordinance 2023-15/CPA 23-07. Scott, would you read that into the record for us, please, before we get moving?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. This is an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, amending ordinance number 4-91 as amended, relating to an amendment of the future land use plan map of the City of Newberry Comprehensive Plan under the expedited amendment procedures established in sections 163.3184, subparagraphs 2 and 3 of the Florida statutes, and in conformance with sections 163.3161 through 163.3215 of the Florida statutes, providing for a change in future land use classification from agriculture to planned development on certain lands within corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida. The tax parcel number is 01932-000-000, consisting of approximately 128 acres, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion at the appropriate time will be to pass ordinance number 2023-15 as read by title only.
Okay, John, Paul, you're going to lead us through this. Does any commissioner need to recuse himself from this before we get started?
I do, Mr. Mayor. I've already signed.
Okay, you signed the paperwork. So if you would just step down off the dais while we go through this item. And John Paul, the applicant is aware that we're down to 3 commissioners at this point, and they're choosing to move forward?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Take us through, John Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just waiting for the presentation to come up. Oh, there we are. The request before you tonight is a future land use map amendment. This is the second reading, so my presentation is going to be brief. Included with the land use change is a rezoning application from agricultural to planned development as well. Much like the last meeting we had on this matter, the development order is attached to the rezoning. If we have discussions that pertain to the development order, when we call the quasi-judicial rezoning to the hearing, we will just enter any discussion from this item into that item for the purpose of minutes and quasi-judicial. Without further ado, the request again is to change the future land use from agriculture to planned development. The map on the screen before you shows the general location, which is the southeast corner of Newberry Road and 242nd. Here is the aerial image showing the property in its current form, which is canopy and field crop. The current future land use is agriculture. The proposed future land use is planned development. The proposed level of development is 350 single-family dwelling units, and the proposed non-residential or commercial component will be 150,000 square feet total. The prior approval for the site was American Retirement's Community. That was a total of 289 acres, had a total of 900 dwelling units, and approximately 70,000 square feet of non-residential use. This was rezoned back to agriculture because no action was taken on the entitlements once granted. The applicant is present. They do not have a presentation, but do you have any comments for the board? They have no comments for the board, so I'll continue with findings and conclusion. Recommended motion. So this presentation, like the last one, talked briefly about the development order. I just want to go into actually just the prior actions, which is PZB, April 3rd. There was some conditions added for the Gray residents. We've addressed those in the development order. There was some comments about the commencement of commercial. Those were addressed in the development order. On April 24th, the commission approved the first reading. With that was the condition for the commercial being shovel-ready, meaning the grading of the site will be completed and utilities will be stubbed at the property line. And that will be done by the 151st certificate of occupancy. And we routed to the state and other reviewing agencies. No objections were received from the reviewing agencies. This is the preliminary development plan that is included in the package. This just shows some of the circulation, access to the arterial Newberry Road, 242nd, and some cross-access for future development. This is just a diagram that breaks them out, so you can see the commercial along Newberry Road, open space, and then the residential in the back divided into phases. This is the current land use allocation in the city of Newberry. This would be the land use allocation as once the plan development is approved. Staff does find the request consistent with the comprehensive plan and land development regulations, and we do recommend enactment of this ordinance this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, John Paul. I should have explained for the record, because Commissioner Clark did not recuse himself for the first reading. He has recused himself for the second reading. At the first reading, he was not in negotiations for anything that had anything to do with this project. At this point, now he is in negotiations for a project that may or may not have an overlap with this. So out of an abundance of caution, he has recused himself at this point, just to see where those negotiations go and to see what happens with that. But that's all that is. But those were not ongoing when we had the first reading. Now they are. So we're just being very cautious as we go through. Okay, so with staff's presentation on second reading, questions for staff? Commissioner Coleman. Martin. Commissioner Martin.
John Paul, thanks for the presentation, very thorough. I just wanted to reflect back what I was hearing, make sure this project is actually more than twice the amount of commercial square footage?
That is correct.
Okay, and this is on 128 acres. Before it was a total of 289
That's correct.
with 900 houses?
Correct.
Okay. And now we're at 350, right?
That is correct.
Thank you, just confirm.
The applicants are here, but my understanding of this application is that these are primarily commercial developers. They have some thoughts about the residential in the back, but their first focus is on the commercial. So that's why you see the double the size in the commercial. We are ongoing with questions about stoplights and all that kind of stuff, which isn't relevant to this one, but these guys really have some exciting commercial economic developments that they want to bring to Newberry, which I know we're all excited about as well. Other questions? Commissioner Farnsworth.
I might have missed this, but the use will still be retirement community, or?
No. These will be detached single-family residences.
So?
Any other questions from the dais? If there are no questions, we've read the ordinance into the record. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion for approval from Commissioner Coleman, a second from Commissioner Farnsworth. Any final comments or questions from the dais? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Motion on the floor is to approve this project. Let it move forward, 150,000 square feet, commercial. Seeing no questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That's going to move us to item 9, which you're recusing yourself as well on that one, so stay comfortable. This one is a quasi-judicial, so we have a specific, I already pulled it out. So we're in a quasi-judicial procedure. This means the commission will stop being a legislative body and will become a judicial board. That means that we have to follow certain rules and adhere to a different standard of decision-making. The primary rule we must follow concerns testimony, and the substantial and competent evidence standard must be met when the judicial board makes a decision. This standard states the following, and I quote, All public testimony will be taken under oath. Everyone testifying will be subject to cross-examination. All documents and exhibits shall be entered into evidence. The giving of opinion testimony is limited to experts, and closing arguments will be limited to the evidence of record. We're going to ask the attorney this time to please read it into the record. On second reading, ordinance 2023-16/LDR 2307, please.
Mr. Mayor, this is an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, relating to the rezoning of approximately 128 contiguous acres, more or less, pursuant to a petition by the property owner of said acreage, amending the official zoning atlas of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations, providing for rezoning from the Agricultural A zoning district to the Planned Development PD zoning district on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida. Tax parcel number is 01932-000-000, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass at the appropriate time, ordinance number 2023-07, as read by title only.
Thank you, sir.
Sir.
I'm going to go ahead and ask the clerk at this point to swear in the applicant, staff, anybody wishing to participate. And folks, if you're here to speak under any quasi-judicial tonight, if we could go ahead and swear you in now, we'll just knock that out of the way. So please rise and be sworn in. If you even think you might talk during a quasi-judicial, go ahead and get sworn. Any quasi-judicial tonight. All right. Madam Clerk?
John Paul Perez.
Brian Thomas.
Ryan Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Before we begin, we need to disclose any ex parte communications and disclose whether any member physically inspected the property. Ex parte communications are any conversations or transmission of information that may have bearing or influence on any voting member's decision. Commissioner Coleman? None. Commissioner Farnsworth? None. Commissioner Martin?
No, sir.
I have none as well, but I'm a non-voting mayor, so it really doesn't matter. Okay, I'm going to explain the order of presentations that we're going to follow tonight. For every quasi-judicial, we're going to follow these. As long as no one new enters the room, I won't have to go through all of these. We can just jump right into the presentation. First, we're going to hear from the staff with an overview. Then the applicant has the opportunity to make a presentation with no time limit. Then staff will give their presentation and recommendation with no time limit. I've not been contacted by any third-party intervener, so we will move straight to public comment. Any member of the public wishing to speak to this agenda item have 3 minutes to do so. Then we're going to hear cross-examinations from the applicant and staff. The member decision-making body may ask questions through the chair to the applicant, staff, or any of the participants. Then we'll hear final arguments. After final arguments, the city attorney will advise decision-making bodies, applicable law, and the factual findings that must be made to approve or deny the application. Then the board will deliberate, and after deliberations, a vote will be taken to approve conditions, continue, or deny. We'll follow that order all night long. John Paul, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The request before you is the rezoning petition, ordinance 2023-16, related to the future land use map amendment that was just approved, rezoning the property from agricultural A to planned development PD. The image before you shows the general location of the property. There's a topographical map of the property. And the current zoning, again, is agricultural A. The proposed zoning is planned development. The level of development proposed is 350 detached single-family dwelling units, 150,000 square feet of non-residential use. The applicant is present if you have any questions for the applicant. They have not prepared a presentation for the second reading of this ordinance. And with that, I'm going to wrap up my presentation. We do find it consistent with the comprehensive plan, land development regulations, and we do recommend enactment of this ordinance on second reading.
Okay, and the applicant doesn't want to make a presentation. We've heard the recommendation. Public comment. Any members of the public wishing to speak to this agenda item have 3 minutes to do so. You just came to listen tonight. All right, that's fine. That's okay. All right. Did you hear anything that you want to cross-examine, set the record straight? No, sir. No? Okay. That's going to take us, member decision-making body. Do you have any questions? Same application, same project, second reading. Commissioner Martin.
The minimum lot size of 5,000 is comparable to what-ish neighborhood that we currently have? I never keep track of this.
That's a great question. Avalon Woods, I think, would be a good equivalent.
Avalon is 5? Okay. Is that true? Roughly?
Got a couple thumbs up in the crowd, so we're
I was
good.
phoning a friend, John Paul.
Is that your final answer?
Okay. All right, thank you. Yes, sir.
All right. Any other questions for the applicant? All right. Do you feel the need to make a final argument? Yes. All right. Mr. Attorney, would you please advise us to make advice, book of law and factual findings?
Mr. Mayor, we have several quasi-judicial hearings this evening, and on each of these matters, it'll be substantial and competent evidence.
Thank you, sir.
Sir.
Okay, we'll enter into deliberations. If there are no deliberations, I'll have a motion. I have a motion for approval from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Coleman. Any comments, questions on the motion, floor for the ayes? Public comments, questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Motion passes unanimously. And I believe Commissioner Clark, hang on, let me flip the page. Come on back. Thank you, sir. We appreciate that. The next item on tonight's agenda is also a quasi-judicial, right? I didn't miss a page. Yes. Next item on tonight's agenda is also quasi-judicial. No one new has entered the room, right? So we're going to go right into the same presentation. We got everybody sworn in. I'm going to ask City Attorney to read into the record Resolution 2023-38, please.
Mr. Mayor, this is Resolution 2023-38 SD 23-05, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, approving with appropriate conditions and safeguards the final plat for Avalon Woods Phase 2. Parcel number is 01874-001-005, as authorized under Section 4.19 of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations in a mixed-use MU zoning district on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, repealing all resolutions in conflict, providing an effective date. Appropriate motion, the appropriate time is to pass resolution number 2023-38 as read by title only.
Thank you, sir.
Sir.
Commissioner Coleman, you got any ex parte for this agenda item? Commissioner Clark, Commissioner Farnsworth, Commissioner Martin? No. I don't as well. And go ahead, right, jump in, John Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The request before you tonight is for approval of Phase 2 of Avalon Woods. This is by resolution. The Phase 2, you've probably seen, if you've been to the site, a lot of the infrastructure is already complete out there. This is the platting phase. They'll be able to obtain addresses after this and then commence with building permits and construction. The cyan outline is Phase 2 of Avalon Woods. You can see here the Easton Center, Phases 1A and 1B to the north, and Phase 3 is to the south of this one. This is an overall master plan that shows where Phase 2 is located within it. Tonight we'll be approving the Phase 2 final plat, which is 106 additional dwelling units. The PD is approved for a total of 700 dwelling units. This would bring the total to 394 currently. And here's an image from the plat, just showing the layout of the lots, blocks, and streets. And with that completes my presentation. We do find it consistent with the prevailing development order for Avalon Woods, comprehensive plan, land development regulations. We do recommend approval of the resolution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I heard a recommendation. Does that mean the applicant does not have a presentation? All right. I've been not been contacted by anybody wishing to claim a third-party intervener status. That's going to move us to public comment. Any members of the public wishing to speak to this agenda item have 3 minutes to do so. Seeing none, we'll move right to cross-examination. Did you hear anything you want to cross-examine? All right. Members of the making body, questions? Commissioner Coleman.
I just want everybody to know that from that field right there, I used to be able to hit the softball right out here where these houses are located. I used to jack softballs out there. That's all I had.
It's too much on the agenda to brag tonight, okay?
But there it is right there. See, I used
all right. Any other questions from the body? No? Would you like to make a final argument? Mr. Attorney?
Substantially competent evidence.
Thank you, sir. We'll enter into deliberations. If there are no deliberations, I'll have a motion.
so moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, second from Commissioner Martin. Any comments, questions, motion on the floor of the dais? Public comments, questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. All right, that takes us to Resolution 2023-47, Post Woods subdivision. Mr. Attorney, would you please read that resolution into the record for us?
Yes, sir. There's a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, approving with appropriate safeguards and conditions the preliminary plat of the Post Woods subdivision as authorized under Section 5.16 of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations for a planned residential development, PRD, zoning district on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, repealing all resolutions in conflict, providing an effective date. Appropriate motion at appropriate time is to pass Resolution 2023-47, SD 23-06.
Thank you. Sir. Thank you, sir. Ex parte, Commissioner Coleman? None. Commissioner Clark? None. Commissioner Farnsworth? Commissioner Martin? No, sir. I have none as well. John Paul, take us away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The request tonight is for the preliminary plat for the Postwood subdivision. This is formerly known as Post 40. This is the general location of the project site within the City of Newberry limits. This is an aerial showing the limits of the property. And the preliminary plat for the Postwood subdivision is pursuant to the rezoning ordinance. It has a future land use of residential low density, but with the PRD operates much like a PD, where there is a ordinance adopted that contains rules that are specific to that particular zoning district, which is different from a standard zoning district like a residential single-family zoning district, which the Code of Ordinances will have all the rules for. The proposed preliminary plat is for 166 lots. The last time the commission saw this, it was 180, so it's had a 14-unit reduction from the original. And I just want to remind the commission that part of this process is a preliminary development plan, which was in the rezoning package. We will eventually move to a final development plan, which will be part of the construction plans and final plat. This preliminary plat will just define the boundaries of that with a legal document called the plat. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to the applicant for their presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Come on down.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Clay Swager with EDA. I'd like to give you a very brief presentation, if I may, and if you have any questions, be glad to answer them. Thank you to John Paul and staff for working with us to get us here tonight. As John Paul mentioned, this is a preliminary plat application. So this is a property that you all have reviewed and seen very recently with the approval of the PD for this property. And so this is a really centrally located property, just a few blocks from where we are tonight. The preliminary plat has been put together to be completely consistent with your approved PD zoning on the property. And the land use designation is low density residential, 1 to 4 units per acre, and the zoning is PRD. So again, as John Paul mentioned, this is 166 single-family detached lots. You had approved this for a maximum of 180, but 166 is where we have arrived. There was a allowance for tiny homes in this project, but those are not being proposed as part of this plat. These would all be single-family detached with the lot sizes that you had approved as part of the PD. We're consistent with the bubble plan, the zoning master plan, as you see on the screen today. This is the preliminary plat as John Paul has provided to you. Again, the 166 single-family detached lots. And part of this project ultimately will include developer provided improvements to 266th Street, which was part of your PD agreement that your staff brought forward and was approved by you all as the commission. And so we are consistent with all that applicable requirements according to your staff. And your Planning and Zoning Board reviewed this last month and recommend approval. And we would very respectfully ask your approval of the preliminary plat tonight. As John Paul mentioned, we'll be back again for final plat, which would be the exact same layout as what we have tonight. So we would, if this is approved, we'd move on to do construction plans, working with your staff, and hopefully get the project moving here and under construction this year. If you have any questions for me, I'd be glad to answer them tonight.
Okay, hang on one second. We appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
John Paul, you want to come back and give your report and recommendation?
Thank you. Just flipping through the slides to not repeat anything that Clay has just said, and I will skip right to the punchline. We do find it consistent with the Comprehensive Plan Land Development Regulation and Ordinance 2022-34, the prevailing development order for Post Woods, and we do recommend approval with the condition to resolve some outstanding comments. They're ministerial, minor, Scrivener type comments that we need to resolve. They've actually already been corrected. They were corrected in time for the publication of the package, so we'll address those afterwards. That's all. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Not been contacted by anybody wishing to claim a third-party intervener status on this agenda item, so that's going to move us to public comment. Any members of the public here to speak to this agenda item? You have 3 minutes to do so. Seeing none, that's going to take us to cross-examinations. Did you hear anything you want to cross-examine? Okay. Staff, did you hear anything you want to cross-examine? Member decision-making body. Questions of the staff or applicant. Commissioner Cole.
Why are they taking out so much space over here? Stormwater basin, I understand, but is that a pit there or something that's over in that far corner?
Can we get a map back up on this one?
Oh, this whole thing is?
Is that the northeast corner
Yeah.
you're looking at? Yeah, that's a high elevation. I'll see if I have I think Clay included a topo
Right
with his right there.
Yes, Commissioner, to answer your question, it's sort of a combination of stormwater retention and also a natural area. It's a depressional area, so ultimately, stormwater will be treated in the area that's closest to the lots, and then after treatment, it eventually ends up down in the depressional area at its pre-development conditions.
So you couldn't build there in the first place because it's,
I think you probably could, but it would be a major earth-moving endeavor. And the developer would like to just keep that as a natural area, put a path through there. It's a nice little.
Mr. Post loves trees, don't he?
Yes, he does. Yeah, it should be a nice area around that basin for the neighborhood.
It'd be nice.
Okay. Other questions from the dais? Commissioner Farnsworth.
The pedestrian path, is that going to be a concrete path, or is that just going to be a chipwood path, or what is that going to be?
cypress logs, slats.
If you'll bear with me for just a moment. The PD did require the pedestrian path to connect to Rock Road. I'm not sure we've actually gotten to a determination of what the material would be for that path. I'm just double checking the PD document to see if there is a specification of that.
Mr. Mayor, staff, I think we haven't quite got to that yet. We'll see it on site and construction plan, but our understanding has been that it will be concrete, and that's our intention. I guess asphalt would be an acceptable substitute, but we have not understood that it was the commission's intent that it would be something other than a permanent surface like concrete or asphalt.
I think Commissioner Farnsworth wanted it plated in gold brick pathway.
With my name inscribed
Okay,
somewhere.
we can make that happen.
And on the improvements on,
You ain't
yeah,
lying.
really, on the improvements on 266th Street, will there be a sidewalk included in that improvement?
Yes, Commissioner, there'll be a sidewalk included as part of those improvements. Yes, sir.
Somebody did.
Other questions from the dais? Can you tell the commission what happened to the tiny houses? We've been trying to get someone to move forward on some tiny houses, bring in some diversity of housing. Why didn't it work out? I know it had been part of the project all the way through. What was the final factor that kicked them out?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I wouldn't say there was one specific thing. The PD, we set it up to allow them as an option. At the time, the developer wasn't sure if they wanted to pursue them or not. he just made the decision to go with the traditional platted lots in lieu of the tiny homes. I don't think there's a specific reason. There are 4 larger lots that are in one of the central blocks, which we had considered that for tiny homes, but just ultimately, the owner decided to not pursue that option.
But it's not the way that our ordinance that governs, that's still manageable, it just didn't work out for this project.
Yes, sir. Yeah, no, that's correct. I think your ordinance is good, and there were no issues. Oh, well, we would have done it if you hadn't had this requirement. That was not the case here. I'm sure you'll have other options coming as far as tiny homes. I mean, it's
Hopefully so. We've been waiting for a couple years. We'll see. Let's see, Mr. McBody, final arguments? You feel the need to
No,
make
sir.
a final argument?
Thank you all.
John Paul, you need to make a final argument? All right, we've already heard the city attorney tell us it is substantial incompetence. Deliberations? Are there any deliberations? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Clark. Comments, questions, motion on the floor from the dais. Public comments, questions on the motion on the floor. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Let's see, that takes us to 13, is that right?
Mr.
12,
Mayor,
I'm sorry, 12. Second reading of impact fee ordinance 2023-14. Scott, will you go ahead and read that ordinance into the record for us?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, this is an ordinance of the City Commission of the Commissioners of the City of Newberry, Florida, regarding impact fees, creating a new chapter 87 of the City of Newberry Code of Ordinances entitled Impact Fees, providing for general definitions, providing rules of construction and general legislative findings, providing administrative provisions related to the imposition, collection, and use of the impact fees, providing for exemptions, alternative impact fees, and developer contribution credits, providing for impact fee review hearings, and notice requirements governing the adoption of impact fee or increase of impact fee rates, providing for the review of impact fees and for administrative costs, providing definitions and legislative findings related to the transportation impact fee, providing for the imposition, collection, and use of transportation impact fees, providing for definitions and legislative findings related to public building impact fees, providing for the imposition, collection, and use of public building impact fees, providing for the notice of impact fee rates, providing for severability, codification, liberal construction, and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion will be to pass ordinance number 2023-14 upon its second reading by title only.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Sure.
I do want to say, we're down a commissioner. This is second reading. If anybody's had a change of heart, right, obviously we can always hear something new in the presentation, but it is second reading, then I would ask to let us know that ahead of time so that we get another commissioner back here. It's passed 4-1 with Commissioner Martin. The Senate Commissioner Martin is here tonight to make his own vote. So if we're gonna get thrown a curveball, just let us know beforehand. If not, we'll proceed. No curveballs? Great. All right, Dallas, take us away.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I'm here for the 45th time to present on impact fees. As the city attorney stated, the recommended motion tonight is to move to adopt the impact fee ordinance upon its second reading. As a reminder to the City Commission and to the public, the adoption of impact fees does meet 9 of the City Commission's strategic goals, which were adopted in a strategic visioning session last year. Most of those goals are related to funding transportation and other capital improvement projects within the city and investing back into our infrastructure. As a reminder, an impact fee is a one-time capital charge. It's charged to new development. So existing residents do not pay impact fees unless they're building a new building within the city. It covers the cost of capacity increases of our infrastructure so that our taxpayers don't have to bear the full burden of new residents moving into the city. So it implements the portions of your capital improvement element and your capital improvement plan. And then generally, impact fees are passed along to new residents of the city in their home purchase price, which is rolled into their mortgage. At 100% impact fees, should the commission adopt those, it'd be about $35 a month on a typical mortgage. So why do cities look at impact fees? Generally, to maintain your current level of service, with every resident that moves into the city, we have more demands on our infrastructure. And to maintain that current level of infrastructure, we need to collect revenue to make investments into the infrastructure. As the commission is well aware, our property tax revenue does not fund expansion of your assets or additional capacity of your assets. It only funds the general ongoing maintenance of those assets that the city has built or been given. As a reminder of what's in this ordinance, we have a 60% impact fee effective, should the commission adopt the ordinance tonight, would be effective November 14th. That 60% impact fee would be effective through October of next year. And then after that, every October, the impact fee would increase by 10% until you reach the 100% impact fee rate that was established by our consultant. Skipping a little bit into the next resolution, but it is or the next item, it is tied into this item. There is an economic development incentive program that has been developed as well for the impact fees that would be eligible for non-residential growth. That provides $3,000 for every new job created that pays above the prevailing wage. An additional $1,000 if you pay, I believe, 150% of the prevailing wage, and another $1,000 if you pay 200% of the prevailing wage. So there's a potential for high wage jobs to get $5,000 per job incentive against impact fees for new commercial growth. There's a couple examples here. An average grocery store at 32.2 FTEs plus some managers who make more would be to get a $100,000 impact fee credit. A coffee store would get at 5 FTEs $15,000. The planning director earlier did some research in a I don't know, say a Publix that might be looking, has typically about 72 FTEs, and so they would generate potentially over $200,000 in credits against their impact fees, the way the current resolution is drafted. As a reminder, we're looking at two separate impact fees. The first is for public buildings. These are your rates at 100% and 60%. Nothing's changed there since the beginning. If the commission adopts a 60% impact fee, your revenue projections are as follows. About $150,000 the first couple years, and then ratcheting up every year as that 10% increases for over the foreseeable future. As a reminder, these projections are based off the numbers we've been using for your wastewater treatment capacity and all your other growth projections, so they all tie out. And as a reminder on public buildings, we can use the public buildings impact fee to fund new governmental buildings, new fire stations, new park facilities, new city halls, those sorts of items. You can also use impact fee to fund the equipment necessary to run those buildings. For example, should we need to build another fire station due to growth, you could use impact fees to also purchase the fire equipment, the fire trucks that need to go into that building to maintain the level of service. The second section of impact fees that the commission has been looking at is multimodal transportation. So that covers streets, roads, sidewalks, bike lanes, walking paths, skateboard lanes, whatever. If you can use it to get from one place to another, it pretty much covers it. Again, at your 100%, we have the rates here, and then the 60% that the commission has directed staff to adopt. Again, your revenue projections, starting about a little shy of $600,000, a little over $600,000 the first 2 years, and then ratcheting up again based off of growth and the 10% increase. These numbers will be used obviously to fund some of the major transportation projects that have been in the CIP, but we've never really been able to attain enough funding to make those projects move forward. So that covers the two types of impact fees. Just to give the commission and the public a sense of where our impact fees fall. In our residential impact fee, the impact fee is based off the size of your house. So we have a small house, a medium house, and a large house. In all situations, our impact fee would be less than the county's current impact fee and much less than the county's new proposed impact fees. For example, a 2,000 square foot home in Newberry will pay just under $4,200 in total impact fees. Currently in Alachua County, that's about $6,800. Should the county adopt the impact fees that have been proposed, that impact fee would go to $8,800. So we're about half of what the county's proposed impact fees are today. We're also significantly lower on both the smaller and the larger homes. On the non-residential side, it gets a little more complicated because in non-residential, it's based off of use and trips generated and those sorts of items. We also have the impact fee credit, economic development fee credit that'll be used to offset those impact fees to incentivize job growth within the city. So you have a couple examples here. The most kind of startling is the grocery store, a 50,000 square foot grocery store in Newberry. At the current impact fee rate would pay just over $400,000, not including any sort of credits that they might receive. In the current Alachua County impact fees, they pay just under $700,000. And should Alachua County adopt the impact fee at the rates that they were presented, that impact fee for that same store would be $1.5 million. And again, our number's $400,000, not including their potential for up to $200,000 in credits against that impact fee. We also remain
Just before, because it's good to see this in one example. We have the economic incentive plan that we'll vote on next, but that also doesn't discuss off-site improvements that may be made that the potential project could also get credits for. So I know that there was a lot of concern about the commercial side of impact fees. I think that when you couple the fact that we can do off-site credits, right, as well as economic incentive credits, we're still going to be very, very attractive for commercial growth, right? We're even on the residential side, we're way under what Alachua County, our closest neighbor, is looking at. Go ahead.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, and I'll remind the commission and the public that the commission has also adopted an economic development incentive for other fees that we charge, and the electorate voted several years ago to provide ad valorem tax rebates as well. So we have a variety of incentive packages in our tool belt to attract businesses. Looking at the pharmacy we're also underneath Alachua County. At a sit-down restaurant and a coffee shop, our base impact fee is a little bit more than the county's, typically driven by the fact that the county has other sorts of revenue that they can use towards impact fees that they have to count. However, with our credit, our impact fee is much less. For example, with a sit-down restaurant of 2,500 square feet, the impact fee would be about $43,000. However, if they hire 12 employees, they get a $36,000 credit against that impact fee. Whereas in the county, it's currently $25,000 or $40,000, their new one. So if they get the full credit, they're about $9,000 impact fee versus the county's $25,000 or $40,000. So the next steps would be for the commission to vote to adopt impact fees tonight. Once those impact fees are adopted, there is a 90-day kind of cooling down period before we start collecting impact fees. Should the commission adopt them tonight, that date would be November 14th. We are required by law to advertise that date, so we'll make sure that it's noticed in the newspaper and on our website, and we'll put notices up in the building department and make sure that no one is surprised that it's coming, although we've been talking about this for 2.5 years now, so I can't imagine anybody's all that surprised. But. So again, the recommended motion tonight is to move to adopt ordinance 2023-14 upon second reading. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any new questions between first and second reading? Commissioner Clark.
Yeah, I know we have all come to this without Commissioner Martin, but the housing and the commercial is the one we want to make sure that we ain't killing. And for the record, we know that we can stop this at any time if this economic implode due to what's going on in Washington. We can always back up, correct?
Correct.
That's correct. So, and then I would always say this, side on the caution to the developer coming in for commercial, so we don't get calls and screams every day and try to hash out something new. I say, there again, the economic development plan, let it work, but side on the caution of probably giving a little more than taking when it comes to the commercial side.
Understood.
Other questions? Commissioner Farnsworth.
The $2,000 for high wages, what's considered a high wage?
It's 200% of the current prevailing wage in the city. Prevailing wage is determined by the U.S. Census and the Department of Labor.
And what would that be? What's the number?
I'd have to look it up.
The mean for Newberry is like 50,000, or Latch County's 50,000 a year.
That's the household.
For, that's very close for a household. Yeah, so 200, that's for the household, not just the one salary? Oh, man, that explains why I'm so poor. Okay, so it'd be 200% of over whatever the mean is, for an individual or for a household?
Individual.
Individual.
So what the actual wage an individual's paid.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah. And the
And that
revenue,
number is based off of the state of Florida's economic development program.
the revenue projections start decreasing in the year 2032. What is the reason for that?
Mr. Mayor, that's again based off of developments we have on the books and the projections developers have given us. So past 2032, we don't have as many developments on the books or haven't gotten as clear of a picture then. So this is just, these are the things we know are coming.
Okay.
We would imagine that more development will come between now and 2032.
It gets the ball rolling. One of the applications that was here before us, Newberry Plaza, has been talking to us, so we know those things are gonna happen, but that's, that's a 10-year project to develop out. We have no idea the applicant who's gonna walk in the door tomorrow and say, hey, I wanna do X.
Correct, and because for your example, Newberry Plaza hasn't been fully approved, their numbers are not included in your projections.
Other questions? Commissioner Martin.
I was just going to restate my objections to this for anybody new that's just come in. I just have some overall concerns of how the projected way that impact fees will actually drive business or not business. I understand the concept of letting the new people coming in pay, which I don't necessarily have an objection to. I'm just not really positive that this filters out the way it is anticipated. With regards to the commercial versus residential, what we have seen historically is that the commercial follows the residential. If we're going to kill the residential through impact fees, the commercial is a moot point. So I think there's potentially some dynamics that will happen between the two of those. But additionally, also, I'm not really sold on the idea of charging a bunch of impact fees to commercial and then just giving it right back to them. So for those reasons, I'll be voting against the impact fee.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
We have an answer for the prevailing wage. According to some very light Google searching, the prevailing wage in Newberry is $18 an hour, so you'd have to pay at least $21 an hour to get that credit.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
Yeah, one thing I would like to say is that even with the addition of impact fees to both commercial and residential, the cost of purchasing a house and living in this city is much cheaper than any place else in Alachua County. So I don't see that there's going to be a massive decrease in residential coming here.
I just wanted to tack on to that point. I was just meeting with a developer who had 4 or 5 phases, 15-year to 20-year plan build out. He's 5 years in. He's about to be coming back with phase 4. He's got no slowdown for selling lots. I've been hearing the same thing that Commissioner Clark's talking about for 2 years now. Recession's coming. It's all crashing down. I don't have a crystal ball, but it's been 2 years I've heard that, and residential, it continues to go as fast as it could possibly go in the city of Newberry. As fast as they can get the lots ready, they're being sold. As fast as they can get the lots ready, they are being sold. So people are flooding to this area because just what Commissioner Farnsworth said, because we're still 20% cheaper than living in Jonesville. We're cheaper than living in the city of Alachua. We offer a high level of service for a very economic rate. And again, I think that it's very telling that we've had this conversation for a long time, and the only person that has objected to this are home builders, right? But every resident is dying for us to pave some roads, put in some sidewalks, put in the infrastructure that keeps their quality of life. And guys, I don't know how to do it. You know, I mean, our options are limited. We can raise the millage rate and everybody pays, even the people who've been here paying for their entire life. Or we can diversify how we're paying for that, and we can make the new people that are coming in pay their fair share. So we spent, as you said, 2 years talking about this. We've had lots of options on the table. I don't know how to get 30th paved, 46 repaved. I don't know how to work with the county to get 15th fixed. You know, all of these kinds of things that we all field complaints about on a steady basis. And residents, I can show you the Facebook feed today, residents are saying, I thought we already had impact fees. Come on, what's taking so long, right? I want you to do X, Y, and Z. And I'm saying, well, you know, we don't, at our current millage rate, we don't fund those kinds of projects. We maintain the current level that exists in the city of Newberry for what we're charging. So if we don't do this, we'll have to do something else, right? And this at least diversifies the payment and makes sure that the folks who are joining us, who just got here, they're paying a fair share as well. So, and this has been a fairly quiet conversation as we've worked through this, you know, which I think is the city of Newberry residents saying, we agree, we want you to have done this a year ago, right? Any other questions? Need a motion on the floor. We've already read it into the record. So do I have a motion? I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman and a second from Commissioner Clark. Final questions or comments on the motion floor from the dais? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Coleman? Aye. Commissioner Clark? Aye. Commissioner Farnsworth? Aye. Commissioner Martin? No. Motion passes 3-1. Commissioner Martin in dissent. Commissioner Mazon absent. All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
in accordance with Florida Statute 163.31801, notice is hereby given that at the August 14th, 2023 meeting of the City Commissioners of the City of Newberry, Florida, the City Commission adopted ordinance number 2023-14, which has established new transportation and public building impact fees in all incorporated areas of the City of Newberry, Florida. These impact fees are imposed on all new construction that applies for a building permit on or after November 14th, 2023, and will fund capital improvements and additions to transportation and public building infrastructure needed to serve new growth. The impact fees will be due and collected as a condition of an issuance of a building permit at the rate specified in the ordinance. Ordinance number 2314 is available for review in the City Clerk's office in City Hall, located at 25440 West Newberry Road, Newberry, Florida, during regular business hours. If you have any questions or require additional information about this ordinance, please contact the City Clerk's office at 352-472-2161, Monday through Thursday, between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. Additional notices will be placed on the city's website and the newspaper of general circulation and will be posted at the building department. Thank you.
Good job.
I've been practicing.
I've been training them up. Sorry, Miss Judy, that you're going to field those calls.
Yeah, sorry, Judy, I didn't tell you that.
Now we're back to item 13. Dallas, you're staying up here. Impact Fee Economic Development Incentive Program Resolution. This will get us back four commissioners all on the same page again. Nice when we all agree. All right, take it away, Dallas.
Mr. Mayor, I covered the highlights of the economic development fee resolution. At the last meeting, the City Commission provided us their feedback and direction. We've incorporated that feedback and direction into the resolution before you tonight. The capital investment portion of the resolution was stricken from the resolution. We've adjusted the credits to allow for the high wage credits as well, and then clarified some of the points that the commission brought up in the last meeting. So our recommendation is that you adopt the resolution tonight. As a reminder, it is a resolution, can be changed at any time with a single meeting.
Let me go ahead and ask Scott to read that resolution into the record for us.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. This is a resolution of the City of Newberry, Florida, adopting an economic development impact fee mitigation program, providing findings, providing for this program to sunset in 5 years, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Appropriate motion is to pass resolution number 2023-48 as read by title only.
Thank you, sir.
Sir.
Questions on the Economic Incentive Resolution Program to make sure that we are continuing to attract development and be competitive. No questions? I'll have a motion. Oh, question, Commissioner Farnsworth.
You talked earlier about other incentive programs for development. So this will be in conjunction to
Yes,
others?
yes, sir.
But the commission has the power to say, well, you get one or not the other, or you get both, right?
All of these, anyone who has to take advantage of this it would come before the commission to get the final approval.
If we have a two to two vote tonight and then it fails.
Are we planning on having a 2-2 vote tonight to fail?
It's consideration.
I mean, this is getting Commissioner Martin back on. He didn't want him, so he's obviously going to say yes, waive him, right? So if you're against it, that makes it 3-1. I mean, it's a good question. I appreciate the heads up, because and Commissioner Martin can weigh on this as well. I think this helps everyone feel comfortable that we're not going to have a hiccup in our commercial development. So if anybody's having a change of heart, this was a 5-0 vote in favor at the last meeting. You trying to tell me something there, Commissioner Farnsworth?
No.
Okay. Because, yeah, if it is going to be 2-2, then I would ask y'all to table it, let Commissioner Mazon get back, right? Commissioner Coleman.
The thing about this is that you can go in there at any time and go, right? I mean, if a big developer comes here that's commercial developer, why didn't he come? Why'd he back out? It's because of your fees. Then my eyes are gonna go wide open.
Yeah, but remember, a big box developer 5 miles east pays 3 times here. So in my mind, it's still incentivizing them to leapfrog over Alachua County, which I would appreciate a county government that actually encouraged economic development to happen inside municipalities, not in unincorporated territory. So this actually incentivizes them to come here instead of there. And I believe that we have this economic incentive program. We have the building department economic incentive program. We also have the ability with off-site improvements, stoplights, those kinds of things to continue to negotiate. I think we have lots of tools.
Property tax.
We have a lot of tools in our toolbox to attract economic development. This is one, but just like with the impact fee ordinance, if commercial development shifts to a frame of mind as residential development has for some of our residents in town, where it's just uncontrolled and exploding and we're building, restaurants and businesses all over the place, I don't really see that happening. You have the opportunity to take the resolution away, right? But right now, this is as a cautious, conservative move to step into this new era of our life. So I didn't get a head nod from Commissioner Farnsworth, so I'm assuming that everyone's going to have a vote on second reading that they had on the first reading. Any other questions? Okay, did I have a motion? I had a motion from Commissioner Coleman and a second from Commissioner Clark. Is that right?
Second.
On this item? Okay, any more comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Commissioner Martin, you look like you're, no. Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Dallas. You gave everybody a little tension there, a little scared. Now you got me all confused where we're at. Item 14, Phase 1 Strategy Development Grant for establishing a regional tech hub in Newberry. Exciting. Mr. New, member of the year, husband to a hometown hero.
Yeah,
Take us through this presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, in our quest to establish really strong economic development in the city of Newberry, the commission has identified as its number one initiative or project for us to establish the AgTech Park, AgTech Innovation Park east of town. And so we have been working on it. It's the best traction we've ever had. I mean, this is a 5-6 year endeavor. and we have got some serious traction on this thing now. We took a trip to DC about 2 months ago and met with several representatives who wanted our ideas on the farm bill that's currently being negotiated. And we had some thoughts on how the farm bill could be utilized to help establish regional tech hubs. And just like was established by legislation that was passed last year. So, and they likely are going to take that step. You know, we didn't get any commitments and nobody was voting, but we got very positive feedback on that. We've established a really good partnership with the University of Florida. We kind of, I think, kicked that off last November out at the IFAS Convention Center with a big meeting, and we've had follow-up meetings, and IFAS is really engaged. They traveled with us to DC for the trip we had with the legislature up there. They've been very supportive. So all of that to get to what we're asking tonight is we've identified a grant application that where we are soliciting $500,000 in funding for some analysis to establish Newberry as a regional technological hub that will then convert into, instead of six-figure grant, will convert into 7- and 8-figure grants to develop the regional tech hub in Newberry. So we are applying for this. The application is due tomorrow, and one of the requirements is a letter from the city that says we understand that there is a 9-to-1 match, that if you fund us at $450,000, that the city will have to pledge $50,000. And so we prepared the letter. Doesn't require, it requires only the manager's signature, but the board has to be aware of it and has to approve it. There is an off-ramp. You know, today, you know that we have $50,000 in reserve funding that we could set aside as a match for this particular grant. But before an award happens and we experience something that was unexpected and those funds vanish, we have an off-ramp. We're not committed. We're committed for all that we know right now. So that's kind of the basis behind it. What we will do with the funding is twofold. Here's our plan. It will allow us to appoint or select a regional innovation officer for a 2-year period who will kind of have a full-time job of putting the master plan together of how we are going to get our ag tech park, the master plan for that, get it funded, get it moving. And in addition to that, we will hire a local planning consulting to essentially redo our master plan. You recall that we created a master plan maybe 3 years ago, and it is a good plan. It's more of a visual, and the master plan that this contemplates will have a greater level of detail. But you know, we're 50 to 75% of the work's already been completed. Go back and provide that enhanced level of detail. We can complete the master plan that will then tee us up for those subsequent grant opportunities. So staff's plan is to fund the RIO and to develop the master plan for the Agri-Tech Innovation Park, sometimes known as the Agri-Food Tech Innovation Park. Really depends on who the audience is. If we know that the audience is more into food innovation, making sure we feed the world, it's an Agri-Food Tech Park. If it is more just very basic, and we're going to build drones that will go out and help us enhance our crops, then it may be an Agri-Tech Innovation Park. I promise you it's one and the same initiative. We're not trying to run 2 initiatives on you right now. So requested action, Mr. Mayor, is to authorize the city manager to execute a commitment level pledging a commitment letter pledging $50,000 towards a Phase 1 strategic development grant for establishing a regional tech hub in Newberry, Florida.
Okay, thoughts, questions from the dais? I will say this is the best traction we have had. Mike said it, but We've got local developers that want to get involved. We've got, UF has recently got way more excited about it. They got a new vice president, who went with us to DC. I mean, that's, to have a vice president of UF go with us to DC to sit in these meetings, that was pretty big. So a concept years ago is now sort of crystallizing. Commissioner Martin?
Yeah, Mike, this sounds like something similar to what a developer would do for themselves. Why does that sound that way to me?
Well, Commissioner Martin and Mayor Marlowe, oftentimes when a developer is looking at a project of this caliber, their funding partners are requiring them to do similar type analysis. And we can take the position that let a developer or the part developer take on that role. However, this grant opportunity is not available to private sector, and the development of this park in Newberry is expected to be a partnership between the city of Newberry on the things that we can help with and the developer on the things that he can help with. If there's grant funding opportunities out there that we can bring home to help develop a master plan, to go get through the Florida Jobs Growth Grant, to go get funding for infrastructure, public infrastructure, then that's a commitment we've made to him all along, that we will go do all the things that we can do, that we're not gonna, we don't have an open checkbook with our residents' checking account, but that from time to time, if we can leverage $9 against one and our commission supports it, then we're gonna make that application.
Other questions, comments? I think I need a motion on the floor to authorize, since this is, city manager's gonna take this. I have a motion from Commissioner Clark, a second from Commissioner Coleman to authorize city manager to execute the commitment letter pledging $50,000 towards the Phase 1 Strategy Development Grant for establishing a regional tech hub. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Roll call vote. Commissioner Coleman? Aye. Commissioner Clark? Aye. Commissioner Farnsworth? Aye. Commissioner Martin? He's still thinking about it.
Cautious, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
4-1. 4-0. Unanimous. All right. It's cautious. Put a C next to it. Yeah. Okay, we are on item 15, right? 2023-50. I do want to make a note that depending on how the commission votes for this, we may need a short break in between this meeting and the BOA because we have a lot of documents to sign if you guys say yes. And he needs coffee. Scott, would you please go ahead and read resolution 2023-50 into the record for us?
It's on the screen.
Mr. Mayor, this is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, authorizing the execution and delivery of the forms of the attached tax-exempt master equipment lease purchase agreement between the city and Flagstar Public Funding Corp. And the escrow deposit agreement referenced therein, authorizing the acquisition, financing, and leasing of certain equipment as described therein, providing for the repeal of inconsistent provisions, providing for severability, providing an effective date. Appropriate motion is pass resolution 2023-50 as read by title only.
Thank you, sir.
Sir.
Dallas, take it away.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. The item before you tonight is the issuance of debt to fund the acquisition of the new fire Quint. This aligns with 3 of your strategic objectives, mostly relating to the fire department and providing tools, resources, and equipment to the fire department, as well as exploring alternative funding mechanisms to support those acquisitions. As the commission knows, about 2 years ago, you authorized the city to purchase a new fire Quint apparatus. We have received that Quint. It's in the station and running calls now. It replaced a 25-year-old existing apparatus, provides a much higher level of service than our previous Quint.
It's fire truck now, not apparatus.
Sorry,
Just-
our fire truck. I've been so trained to say apparatus. Through the purchasing process of that fire truck, we did discover that we did need additional equipment as well on the fire truck. So when the commission authorized us to purchase the fire truck, to fund that acquisition, the commission did raise the fire assessment. I'll quickly go into the actual fire assessment. The commission raised the fire assessment, which raised an additional $60,000 a year. We're proposing a debt issuance to cover this, mostly from a cash flow standpoint. As you can see on this slide, your VERF fund balance, if you issue the debt, helps level out your cash deficiency in the VERF, so you're not negative nearly $900,000 today. Based off that purchase, it helps spread that cash deficit out, and then the additional fire assessment collection every year is going to repay the VERF for that. Without issuing that debt, you can see that the cash deficiency is much higher. We go about an additional $300,000 deficient in that fund. Ultimately, we get to the same place over the course of the fire truck. But that's the reason behind asking for a debt issuance. We did go to bid for the debt issuance. We used our financial advisor, Public Finance Management. We also used bond counsel from Neighbors and Giblin. We received 3 bids, says 6. We received 3 bids. Bids ranged in interest rates from just under 4.9% to a little over 6.1%. All of our bids were a 5-year term. Flagstar was selected as the best option with a 4.873% interest over 5 year. Annual debt service payments will be about $205,000, again paid from that fire assessment that the commission raised back in 2021. There's no prepayment penalty on this debt, so should the commission choose to pay it off at any time, we can do so. With that, recommended motion is to adopt resolution 2023-50. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions? Commissioner Coleman.
What is closing costs? This is not a mortgage. Are you putting up land or something for collateral?
The fire truck itself is the collateral, but the closing costs go to pay our bond counsel fees, the underwriting fees, the PFM's fees.
Commissioner Coleman could have done that for us. I was fixing to say. No, I couldn't.
Next time we go to bid for it, I'll let you know.
Other questions from the guys?
We have to pay this nice gentleman to sit through our entire meeting.
So, Dallas, are we rolling up the equipment and all under this 800,000? Are we just rolling it up?
Yes, sir.
As one thing?
Yes, sir.
We don't have the money to pay this we don't have the money in any of the fire assessment or anything to pay $70,000 or $80,000 and
The fire assessment
finance it?
is
I mean,
no, sir.
what is that? No?
No. I mean, you'd effectively be doing the same thing. I will mention, we are making about the same amount of interest in our savings accounts right now, so.
Watch.
Well, but no, to answer your question, no. It effectively gets you to the same place.
Other questions from the dais? Okay, we read the resolution in, right? So I just need a motion. I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth, a second from Commissioner Martin. Comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That brings us to item 16, request by Alachua County BOCC for another joint meeting. I'll come to Commissioner. Mike, do you have any intro on this, or is the title pretty much the intro?
Title is it, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Coleman.
Nothing left to say. Said everything that we need to say on this. We need to move forward on it. I do not want to subject my people that I represent, if they would like to show up at a meeting again and have what we had this last time. So I totally against having this meeting.
I mean, I'm kind of on the same page as Commissioner Coleman here. I feel like we've offered up 22 acres in 10-10-2 for 3 different interlocal agreements. That was a 5-0 vote. They've got 3 projects. I can't say anymore how publicly Newberry supports all 3 of those projects if they decide to move through. We filled up this chamber with Newberry residents saying, we like the fact that you're supporting our ag. We like the jobs. We like the economic development. I've sat through another meeting down there. So I kind of feel like the ball is in their court. If they move forward with them, they move forward with them. But I can't think of anything left for us to say about this project. If they move forward with it, great. If they don't move forward with it, I'll be sad, disappointed. Our farmers will be sad and disappointed. And all 3 of these projects can be treated and should be treated as separate projects, valued for their own work. Commissioner Clark, you reach for the mic.
I was just gonna say, Mr. Mayor, is this absolutely the same meeting we had? Is that all we're doing is rehashing?
Pretty much.
Well, I don't need, I done went through this one time. I don't need to sit through the,
Well, you went through it twice.
well, I know, but I'm just saying, I don't need to sit through what I did the last time with the same people that they hire and bring in and do all this stuff over the meat pack facility. If they want it, they do it. If they don't, hey, I'm out. I mean, it's just that simple. And I'm with you, we would love to have the fire tower. I think that'd be a great thing for the community. It could actually be enlarged to make, not just fire training, but the same thing they do for their linemen, stuff like that. I mean, it'd be a great project. So it's on them.
I agree. Anybody that wants, this joint meeting proposal came the day after our joint meeting when Commissioner Cornell said, well, before we RFP the project, I want to have another joint meeting with Newberry. Because if you remember that night, the only pertinent item from our perspective was, county, we appreciate that you have seen that we're an agricultural community. We appreciate that you're trying to help us keep a foot in that agriculture. But if you're going to put a recycling center on 337, you got to elevate the timeline for fixing 337 because it's a terrible road. So we need the road in conjunction. We'd already agreed on the land. We'd already said thank you for the 3 projects that we value. But we needed a commitment that they weren't going to put potentially three projects on 337 that was going to increase the traffic on 337 and still keep a timeline that didn't have them addressing 337 until 2030 or 2031. So that was really all it was. You guys voted 5-0. If you can help us on 337, we'll donate the land in return. I kind of think that this is a political ploy just to fill up a room again and have the same conversation over again. I am willing to put that in a letter. I'll go home tonight and write a letter that we respectfully decline the opportunity to have another joint meeting. Newberry has offered up the acreages that we offered in the vote. We sincerely hope that you move forward with it because our farmers have expressed that they would like this. But if you're not, it's a county project. I kind of feel like this is a county project, and somehow, even though we've been really supportive of the county, we've been used as a pawn, and now it's creating division between us and the county, right? When we were just here from the very beginning saying, hey, that sounds like a good project. We want to support it, right? Commissioner Martin?
You stole a little bit of my thunder, but that's okay. I'll be happy to repeat that I absolutely, that's 6 hours of my life I'd just assume to have back. I wish I could have it back for everybody else. And I understand that the county likes to talk about everything to death and not do anything. That is not the personality of this commission, and I think it's a complete waste of time, and I refuse to have our community used so that those commissioners can grandstand on issues.
Commissioner Farnsworth, everybody said it all? So I guess all I need is authorization from you guys. I'll write, I'm not even going to ask staff to do it. I'll put it in the letter, everything I just said. All right. That takes us to comments. Thank you, Mr. New. That was a great presentation you gave. All right, city manager comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Reminder to the commission that Saturday morning, somebody's kind of already stole my thunder on this, but we're going to do a push-in event for our new Quint apparatus at 9 a.m. Little Red Schoolhouse. Just seeing who's paying attention.
Now,
It's really going to be at the fire department.
Do we actually, I just need to know if I wear my gym clothes, or how do I come and dress? We pushing this thing in? Is it, because we all know that Monty's just going to stand there with a finger on it, so I need to know.
It's photo ops for elected officials. We'll let the firefighters do the
So
pushing.
I can sit on the top
Exactly.
of it. Yeah.
Exactly. But the whole community is invited. We're going to try to make a big deal out of this. So please, if you have an opportunity, Saturday morning, 9 a.m., don't be late. It'll be a really nice event. We're excited about our new truck. Bring the kids? Yes, we have lots of fun activities planned aside from a push-in event. So invite your friends, bring their kids, have a nice event. And then, Mr. Mayor, we have moved our first budget adoption hearing from Monday, September 11th to, is that Thursday or Wednesday? Wednesday, September 6th. We had a conflict with another government entity that outranks us. So we got the privilege of moving our first budget adoption hearing. So we have publicly noticed it for September 6th. We'll make sure it's on all your calendars. Just want to make sure the public is well informed of that. We continue to move along with our budget process, which is essentially a continuation budget, nothing significant in terms of programming changes. We've talked about the projects that really aren't new projects. They're just taking that next step in the life of a project. And we mentioned to you that we are seeing a lot of inflationary pressures related to our health insurance and our property insurance. These are not in the old days, we complained about a 7% increase in either of those, and we lamented and bellyached about it. These days, we would be dancing in the highway for something that was sub 10. Both of those are plus 20% increases are what we are being quoted right now. So I will say that our finance department is doing the yeoman's work to try to get that under control. There are a lot of factors, most of them beyond our control, but the two storms that Amy talked about put a lot of pressure on property insurance. A lot of insurance companies are pulling up out of town. The 7 to 9% inflation rate that we've been seeing for the last 12 to 18 months is having an impact on us as well. So we plan a continuation budget. We plan to not talk about increasing our millage rate, but it is requiring some belt tightening on our part. You'll recall that staff's already went through and cut our operations budget by 5%. And so just, again, reminding the commission where things are with our budget process. And I wanted to mention, just on Post Farms, the development that we have, that you approved on preliminary plat tonight. I was unsuccessful in getting the mayor's attention when we were there, so I rolled it down to comments. Couple things though, it's infill. It is right on the edge of our current development pattern. It's on the west side of downtown, which for as long as I've been here, I've heard our commission talk about that, hey, if anybody asks where do we want growth, we'd really prefer it to be just west of downtown because we think that'll really significantly benefit downtown. It's a great partnership because we are doing some things infrastructure-wise through a partnership with this developer that's beneficial to the developer, but also beneficial to our tax and ratepayers. We're getting some utility extensions that have long been needed, and there's some cost savings to our ratepayers there, and we're getting a partnership with fixing what I would characterize as potentially the worst paved road in Newberry. I will stop short of calling it the worst road in Newberry, but the worst paved road in Newberry. I know that most high schoolers are going to be sad to see the roller coaster, the Dipsy-Doo, go away on Friday nights. But it's a good partnership for us, and it does save money for the taxpayers of Newberry, Florida, to partner up with this developer, get that sidewalk in there. So it's kind of development that the commission advises us when we have those discussions, that's kind of an ideal development. That's what we're looking for. The more of them you can do, the better. And I just wanted to highlight that. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my comments.
Thank you, sir. And don't worry, the high schoolers will just move over to County Road Southwest 15th. And they'll hit all those bumps. Before we move on in comments, Dallas, can you take our guests back? Let's find a desk. Let's go ahead and spread everything we need. Let's get it ready so that the break in between can be as efficient as possible. Mr. Attorney, do you have any comments tonight?
No, Mr. Mayor, other than congratulations, Melinda, and congratulations, Mike.
Thank
you. Very nice way to start off a meeting.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, do you have any comments tonight? All right, well, that's all right. Elections are right around the corner. You're going to be all geared up, right? Commissioner Coleman?
Well, Friday night, Newberry plays Mayo, and I'm kind of torn. I don't know. I can't help it. So, and I've been asked, who you going to pull? Because this must have been a lot of years since Newberry and Mayo have played. But let's go Mayo. Come on. Go Hornets. Who's with me?
You know, Hawthorne is the Hornets.
No, hey, we were way before. But Hawthorne,
Is that your only comment?
that's the only.
You're going to end on that?
We won a state championship
Back
in
when you
1982. Yep.
1782?
1982, Kerwin Bell.
There were only 2 high schools in the state back then, yeah.
But let's go Mayo.
Go home.
All right.
Commissioner Clark?
A couple things. First, congratulations, Mike, and the award to Melinda there. That's always a good thing. And I'd like to say I took the grandkids by to see the Quint, and it was an absolute great time. Fire department did a great time with them. So to see that truck and see what it does and the equipment on it is really amazing. That thing's going to be a life saver for this community if something does happen. So it's a great purchase, and Newberry should be very proud of it. I just want to say that we got the gala coming up on November the 17th, Denim and Diamonds, to support the Veterans Memorial. And I also, sitting right here, I'd like to thank everybody in the community that can hear this or that are even here that have supported this so far, and we've had quite a bit of it. So I want to thank everybody. Yeah, I said everybody.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't naming names. I'm just everybody that supported it and that I have talked to has been just wonderful. So that God bless America, and pray for our troops that are overseas.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Farnsworth?
Mr. Mayor, I remember when Newberry played Mayo, and we
Back in 42 or 43.
we always kicked their butt.
Did they wear helmets then?
We were always happy that they were coming or we were playing them because it was such an easy game to win. Except maybe one time. But we threw rocks at the bus as it was leaving. Other than that, go Newberry.
Thank you, Commissioner Farnsworth. Commissioner Martin?
With regards to the development east of town on the south side of 26, make sure that we have all the concurrency stuff over to the school board. Because whereas it was a senior community before with zero impact on the schools, that's going to change things a little bit. I don't recall seeing some of the financial reports in our consent agenda. Have I been missing them? We used to have the bills and everything in there.
Mr. Mayor,
I think you're talking, it's been a while since we've done that. You're talking about when we went
Yeah.
through the credit card reports and all that kind
Well,
of stuff.
we had them on the consent agenda, but I just hadn't seen them in a while.
my person that knows all those details has just stepped out of the room, but we will, we'll provide any reporting that we have readily available that the commission asks for.
Well, I would like to have them back on the consent agenda because I do look through them.
Okay. Happy to do it.
And can I get 2 updates on the Rio display and the Newberry city limit sign, where we are on both of those projects?
Travis, you still here? He left. No.
Mr. Mayor, I'll transmit an email tomorrow morning updating the city commission. I can just tell you, the Rio is, the bid package is being prepared. It's ready to go out for bid. It's just finishing touches. I see the email correspondence going back. And then the gateway sign is, it's under construction. And, you know, the contractor that's working on it is kind of hit and miss. He's got a couple other projects that he's splitting time for. And so he does a little work and then lets his concrete cure. And he is going to get us through, he has brick to put on and he has stone to put on, and that will complete his work scope. That will leave the lighting and the lettering. So that all of that has been ordered. Once that contractor is completed with his work scope, then we'll get started on the lighting and the lettering.
Cool. Thank you.
Commissioner Coleman.
I know I had COVID and can't remember junk half the time, but I do remember this. That,
Monty hit
we
you with
were
a rock. Monty hit you with a rock as you were leaving.
Yeah, when I was on the school bus heading back. No, I recall that we were at the point that we didn't. I think you were on the board at that time too. You weren't the mayor, and that we were going to cut out getting line items on our budget at that time. It hit me. I remember because it would be that thick every time. But if they would do it maybe once or twice a year, I'm for that, just to see line item billing. But I mean, payables. But that was the reason. That's what I remember.
Yeah. I seem to have some recollection as well, but I think what Commissioner Martin's talking about were more of the credit card receipts, which weren't that long. You kind of flip through those pretty quick.
Right.
But when they were on the consent agenda, I don't remember seeing them on the consent agenda recently, but I'm sure there's a reason for it.
But no, I'm not budget. I'm talking
Yeah,
about
no,
we used to get what he's saying.
And that was my point. It hasn't been on the consent agenda that I recall lately.
We definitely put it on the consent agenda because 99.9% of the time it was just a pass through kind of a thing. We would just like to keep eyes on it. We'd periodically ask questions about it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Was that it, Commissioner Martin?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I don't really have any comments tonight. Just say welcome back to school, everybody. We started last Thursday. It's a strange way to begin on a Thursday, but it's a great 2-day weekend. You had a weekend, I gave an update on Southwest 15th, the section that we are working on, mainly just to tell folks that we are going to be doing that project this year, but we're not doing that project right here at the beginning of school. So we are beginning to see some trucks doing some surveys work. That's generating some questions, some talks. I wanted to let folks know what's going on. Of course, anytime you talk about roads in schools, you get it right into Commissioner Martin's point about concurrency and what's going on with the school board. I'm sure if you're a parent at home, you've heard that all 3 of our schools are busting at the seams, kids in the halls, kids in the classrooms. So I want to reiterate the point that roughly 60% of the population of Newberry Elementary School is Newberry residents, the children of Newberry residents. The school board sends the rest of the remaining 140% of the student population from outside of the city of Newberry. Oakview is at 50%. The school board sends the remainder of the 120% of that capacity from outside of Newberry city limits. Newberry High School, 40% of the population in Newberry High School are the children of Newberry residents. The school board sends the remainder of that 110% population from outside the city of Newberry. This board could not approve one more house built in the city of Newberry, and that would not do one thing to stop the overcrowding in the Newberry schools, because the school board will just continue to send kids from outside of our jurisdiction into our jurisdiction. So it is absolutely wrong to put Newberry's growth rate and Newberry schools being overcrowded together into the same conversation. Because in my opinion, Newberry residents have every right to first dibs on those seats. And there's 60% of Newberry High School that could be filled up with Newberry residents before we hit 100% capacity. School board is in the middle of rezoning right now. We have asked them, I've asked them on your behalf, to shift that zoning line, just nudge it a little bit west to encompass Jonesville, because right now Jonesville is split. And so that one move would take about 20% out of all three of our schools. But our kids come from all over the place. We have kids from outside of the county. We have kids from High Springs, City of Alachua, City of Gainesville. The student that called in the bomb threats 2 years ago was a transfer to the City of Newberry sent to us by the school board. Was not a Newberry student. Kid that brought a gun to Newberry High School last year, not a City of Newberry student, was transferred to us by the Alachua County School Board. So when we have local developers, local people that come to us and say, hey, I want to do something with my property, I want to build in the city of Newberry, and we say, well, we don't have the room in the schools, you could say no to that. The school board will continue to bus kids into our community to over 100% capacity, so that doesn't do any good for us. We could shut down every growth in Newberry, still have overcrowded classrooms. The only way we fix this is with a conversation with the school board about who gets first rights to the seats in those classrooms, and eventually we got to convince the school board, as they promised in 2018 when they passed a new tax, to build the facilities that they had on the list. There should be a new building at the high school right now. They did finish the building at the middle school. It needs another one already. The elementary school, I'm not exactly sure what the plan is in the elementary school because that has changed so rapidly, right? So, but I mean, at the end of the day, the only thing that's going to fix this is the school board using your tax dollars that you pay, and the school board and the county are the two biggest entities that take in the biggest bite out of every tax dollar that you pay. We need them to invest in our schools. We need them to track. Commissioner Martin just said it. Newberry Plaza, if it makes it through, it'll be a 10 to 20 year project. So right now, today, they've got 10 to 20 years to plan on the 350 houses that are built. And not every house is going to have 10 kids in it, right? So kids grow, they age, they move in, they move out. So 350 houses does not mean 2 kids per house, right? And they got 10 to 20 years advance notice. We've got to start framing this conversation better if we want a real solution, because for too long, we've had county members come in here, school board members, and blame the overcrowded schools on this dais approving houses. And this dais has only approved two, maybe three two developments. Every other development has been on the books for 20 years. The school board has seen that growth rate coming for 20 years. So that one comment turned into a little long. I apologize. Public comment. Come on down, ma'am. You waited here all night long.
Hi, my name is Monica LaRue. I live down on 337. My dad and I are here tonight just to kind of show face and to let y'all know that we haven't forgotten about the whole solar panel discussion. It has not been on the agenda so far this summer, and my dad's gonna speak way more intelligently to y'all about it. I'm just here to ramble a little bit. But yeah, basically, a lot of us are still concerned. We know that it is going to happen. The solar panel farm is going to probably happen. We would just like for y'all and also the solar panel company to just hear us out a little bit so we can kind of meet in the middle and kind of all be happy and just work some things out. So that's all I wanted to say. And now for my father, who is smarter than I.
All right. Thank you. And we'll be the judge of that. I don't know. She did pretty good. She did a pretty good job.
No pressure. No pressure. Jay LaRue, I didn't expect an introduction from my own daughter this evening. So, hey, thank you for an opportunity just to chat with you a little bit. I'm not really going to go into extreme detail other than recognize that we know that the solar farm just out on 337 past 46 is coming at some point. And we know it's there. We're residents of that, and some of us have gotten together. I'm sure you've received letters and you've heard some other people make comments on it. So my only primary goal tonight is to appeal to you to get it on the agenda so that we can at least have a discussion about it. There are some tweaks that we'd love for you to be able to make to the ordinances that benefit not only us as we border that particular property, but suspecting that you folks will one day be looking and entertaining other solar farms to come in as well. This would be great to be able to establish these standards now going into that time, so that it'll be set for the future. So that's really where we're at. I know you guys have a lot going on. I respect your time and everything you have going on. And if there's anything I can do in terms of being a part of discussions and workshops or whatever that is to do that, I'd be glad to do that. I think, if we can proactively do that, it keeps us from having to react to something that's going to take place closer to time. And I know you have all these many things on the agenda, so love to be able to get a spot on that if that's possible. All right?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
sir. And Mike, could you, I know that we've actually already had 1 or 2 meetings where we talked about that ordinance. We got feedback from the commission on the changes that they want to see. But the applicant doesn't plan to move forward until next year. So from staff time, we haven't put any pressure on staff to bring that back because the applicant's not moving forward with it in a time certain. Can you give the residents some idea of when?
Mr. Mayor.
The commission's already given the feedback to staff, right?
Correct.
So now we just have to get it in writing.
Staff intends to have draft language for the commission to consider in September.
Okay.
So,
Next month.
The next month. So we got enough feedback from the commission to take a stab at it. I'm not certain tonight that we plan to have a discussion item. Here's the direction we're heading, or if it's going to be a full-blown, here's an ordinance on first reading. But we're working through that. But we anticipate that in September, they'll be on your agenda to have that discussion and begin moving forward with changes that the commission would like to see.
Okay. Commissioner Martin?
Yeah, despite how far along we are in getting a perfected ordinance that we're going to be actually discussing to vote on, I'm not opposed to having some agenda item to at least talk about it. I think the communications that I've gotten from the residents down there, at least, is that they're wanting to know about it. So we can certainly have a preliminary discussion, even if there isn't any action taken on it. And I'm in favor of doing that.
Well, it was coming back in September because we've already had one night where we had that preliminary discussion. So we gave the feedback. We talked about the buffers. We talked about all those things already. I think the frustration on behalf of the residents is the distance between that night where we gave feedback and the actual ordinance is just frustrating for them. But I think the reason for that is because the applicant's not coming forth. We got applicants beating down Brian's door every day that have projects that are ready to move forward now and just trying to prioritize. So when we have an applicant that says, I'm not moving forward on this project for a year, 18 months, what we hear is, okay, we got a minute, right? I do want to make sure that the residents understand and the commission knows, Newberry has had a solar farm ordinance for a long time. This solar farm company bought this land with an understanding that Newberry has a solar farm ordinance. So when we bring this ordinance back, we're not bringing it back to take the ordinance away because that would make the city liable because they've spent a lot of money on this project because we had a solar farm ordinance. We said we want solar farms. We want to figure out how to do this. The point of this conversation will be how do we tweak the solar farm ordinance so that everybody can live amicably together. I believe I heard the commission, when we talked about this, already address 98% of what the residents have said. Bigger buffers, vegetative buffers, making sure that we align things where the noise is not there. And I believe that the commission has said to staff, bring back an ordinance that shifts it from a 10-foot buffer to a 15 to 20-foot vegetative buffer. If there's a line of sight with a resident, maybe it goes from 20 to 25, those kinds of things. So I believe this commission has already directed staff to write up an ordinance that's going to address. I've seen a lot of the emails from some residents. I think some of the residents are asking for things that would be illegal for us to do. We cannot write an ordinance that has acres, not feet. We can't force this company to put a 10-acre buffer all the way around the property. That's just not possible. So there's, a lot of things. I don't know anything about solar farms causing cancer or interfering with pacemakers. I've seen no scientific peer-reviewed study that supports that. So all I'm going to ask from the commission and from the residents is that we all kind of work together to try to come up with a good product. And what I would also say to residents is sometimes it's easier for me in my property line to plant some vegetation that blocks something that I don't want to look at than it is for them to do it all the way around. And we all have that option, right? If I really don't want to see something, I can plant some vegetative buffer. We're going to ask this solar farm to have some vegetative buffer. We've got studies that show that you really can't see through 15 feet of vegetative buffer. So every foot after 15 feet is just making everybody feel comfortable, right? Like, okay, you can't see through 15, we're going to ask for 20 of vegetative buffer. So I think we're working on it. I know we've answered most of the emails that have come through, and we'll bring the ordinance back next month to make sure that we got, because Commissioner Farnsworth had some questions about, are we doing cedar trees or what kind of, plants are planting to really leaf it out so that you can't see things. I know that there were some residents that didn't want the oak trees to come down, right? I think we've addressed that. So I think that we're gonna have an ordinance that if we're all being reasonable, we can accept. But some things, we just can't legally do, right? And so that's kind of where we are on the ordinance. But we have heard, no one is slow walking it. It's just a lot of priorities. Other public comment? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned. 5 minutes, right? We're gonna go back here and sign some things, grab some cup of coffee. Use
Now, it is applicant presentation, but they don't have any presentation, so if the commission agree, can I go ahead? But they are there for any kind of question.
It's how much trust everybody has in you, Ms. Uma. Right?
Okay.
Just let you go with it, yeah.
Thank you. Yes, so again, I'll not go with the whole property location again, just going to the aerial image. It is located, as I said, on north of West 9th Place. This is the proposed building finish elevation, and as we discussed before, it was presented in the planning and zoning, and it was approved on July 17th with all these criterias. The condition for approval was, there were a couple of those, but they have taken care of before this meeting. So the only condition right now is provide the location of trash replicate in the plan, the location of the trash replicates inside the warehouse, that the owner shall provide the letter of agreement with the Waste Pro. Finally, the staff finds that the request is consistent with the City of Newberry Land Development Regulation and Comprehensive Plan, and recommend the Board of Adjustment to approve the Resolution 2023-40/SDP 2301.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm here for any question, and applicant is here from JB Pro.
All right, thank you. Public comment? I've not been contacted by anybody wishing to claim third-party intervener status, so public comment? Seeing none, did you hear anything you want to cross-examine? All right, member decision-making body, you have any questions? Commissioner Farnsworth.
When we put in a requirement for commercial property, is this what they consider to be commercial property on this?
Yep.
And we should be more specific in our request for commercial property then in the future. What kind of tax revenue will this produce for the city?
Dallas went home. I don't know the answer to that, but it's more than ag.
Absolutely, it would be higher than residential. It would definitely be higher than ag. There's no exemptions for this type of development.
And I think you guys do have different types of commercial. So you have different areas that different types of commercial are allowed and not allowed. But this is definitely an area that this type of commercial would do well in. Commissioner Farnsworth, is that?
Whatever they got.
Yeah. Commissioner Martin?
I seem to recall that when we were talking about Avalon Woods, that this southern part of Avalon Woods was ideal for sort of this transition type of use between the residential and the full-blown commercial that's just south of this property. So I'm glad to see, because I know we actually specifically talked about storage units going there. So just as a refresher to my fellow commissioners.
Other questions? Comments? Okay. Would you like to make a final argument? Would you like to make a final argument, Zuma?
One point, this is our code which says commercial intensive, which include all these kind of developments.
All right. Mr. Attorney, would you please advise the decision-making body?
Substantial and competent evidence.
Thank you, sir. We'll enter into deliberations. Starting in deliberations, I have a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, a second from Commissioner Clark. Comments, questions from the dais? Commissioner Martin?
I may be putting the cart before the horse, but if this is intended to serve the residents of Avalon Woods, do we have an idea of how the connections are going to work yet? I see the connection coming off of the commercial road. Come on down.
And you're asking, will residents have to go out and then come back in?
Yeah.
Right, so I think this petition is for the Shore Builders application, which is a local contractor. This would be his office and warehouse.
Right.
The next petition will be for town center storage, which is the, what do you call it? Storage units. But to speak to the connectivity, the master plan for the site or conceptual layout we currently have, will have a direct access to the commercial area from the residential portion of Avalon Woods. So they won't have to go onto State Road 45 and loop around. They'll be able to go through the development to get to the units.
Okay, where is that gonna happen?
If we can pull up.
Yes, it's separate, but it's kind of all one
Yeah, it's-
conversation for me.
I guess it
Can we
would be
go
the
back and put a map?
northeast corner
Because
of
this
the
is,
commercial.
like this map here, I can see that we just got the one building, right? So technically, this part is not under consideration on this motion.
That is the next petition, which I will, that's the.
Okay. All right, so fill in the blanks here for me.
Yep, so if you see up on the northeast corner of the commercial area, there's a
Hold on.
road that is stubbed.
Hold on. I mean, I remember there being something there.
Yep.
Right there.
Yeah, right there.
Over to the left.
It doesn't show up on the screen, but
There is no connectivity on that.
There will be. Through here.
Correct.
Will be the connectivity from all of this development into a roadway network that'll connect with this commercial property.
And also connect to 41 Commerce Park to the
Right.
south.
Yeah, it comes out here.
It'll all tie in.
And there's, is there connectivity to State Road 45 at some point as well?
Not
There is connectivity on 16th Avenue right there.
Okay.
I believe the plan in the future is to petition FDOT for access on a future parcel to get another access, but that is not guaranteed with the way. the
Are we
DOT
gonna be
grants
able to get,
access.
are we gonna be able to get to Shore Builders from that stub out?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Are we going to be able to get to this Shore Builders facility from,
So the stub
From
out is in a
Avalon.
future phase of Avalon, so whenever that stub out comes is whenever the connectivity would happen.
okay, where does that come out on here? Oh, really? Is there, so this is nothing on here?
This is a future.
yeah.
Oh, I
But
see.
you gotta get, we're in a quasi judicial, so you gotta
Okay.
read it in. Just
So just-
verbally describe what you just
So
said.
what he was showing me is, if you look at the diagram, where the drainage line goes under at an angle
Correct.
into the basin here,
That road,
this stub out here would continue north and make a right around the basin and connect to that drawing that we just had up there. You follow?
Yeah, I studied mine.
Well, you're a much better man than I am, because none of that's on here,
Just got a lot of time on my hands.
evidently.
Main
Okay,
question is,
that's
can
what
I
I
get
had.
there with a golf cart? That's the main thing. Can I access it with a golf cart?
Mr. Mayor, I would point out, there's a little bit of challenge in
So the
connectivity.
connectivity is there at build-out, it's just not syncing up with the timing of
That-
this. So in the interim, the only connection is gonna be from Commerce 41, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And for the commercial interests that are happening on the south end of Avalon Woods, staff has been promoting connectivity to the south through Commerce Park. And the connectivity that we always ask for going north through Avalon Woods, which is almost exclusively residential, is through a roadway network that is intentionally very circuitous, so that cut-through commercial traffic that is trying to be the quickest way out are going to be dissuaded. Perfect choice of words for that, from driving that direction. So every time, I don't sit in on every meeting related to these developments, but every meeting I sit in, that's the primary discussion going on between our planning staff and our public works staff with the development team.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? We had a motion? You made a motion and a second. Okay. Any more questions from the dais on the motion on the floor? Public questions on the motion on the floor? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Motion passes unanimously. You voted no? I didn't hear you. Roll call, Commissioner Coleman?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
No.
Commissioner Martin?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-1 with Commissioner Farnsworth in dissent. We're still in quasi judicial, don't go anywhere. No one new entered the room, so I'm gonna move right along. Mr. Attorney, would you please read Resolution 2023-41/SDP 23-04 into the record for us?
Mr. Mayor, this is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, serving as the Board of Adjustment of the City of Newberry, Florida, approving an application for site and development plan for the construction of approximately 49,500 square foot self-storage facility in a mixed-use MU zoning district pursuant to Section 14.12 of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations, located generally at east of US 41 SR 45 and north of Northwest 9th Place, identified as a portion of parcel number 01897-001-010 on 3 acres within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, repealing all resolutions in conflict, providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is pass resolution 2023-41 as read by title only.
Thank you, sir. I've already done the ex parte, so we'll have a staff overview. If there is no applicant presentation, we'll move right into recommendation.
Mayor, Oma Sarveshta, Senior Planner, Planning and Economic Development. I'm presenting Resolution 2023-41, SDP 2304, Site and Development Plan for Town Center Storage at Avalon Wood. The partial is the portion of the partial 01897-001-010. It's approximately 3 acres of land. Project name is Town Center Storage at Avalon Wood. Petition is by S&T Newberry Holding Limited. Agents are JB Pro. The future land use is mixed use, while the zoning district right now is mixed use too. This is a part of the another part of the same property located on east of SR 45, US 27, and north of Northwest 9th Place. This is the location, and this is again the portion of the master plan of Avalon Wood, and located on the property shaded there. The request is for site and development plan for town center storage that include approximately 49,500 square feet of self-storage facility. There will be 7 buildings with 170 by 25 dimension, 1 building with 170 by 35 dimension, and 2 buildings with 185 by 35 dimension. This is the proposed building finished elevation with 10 buildings there, and east of that is the sword builder, which was just passed. Now I have the applicant presentation. We have Kyle here to present. Go ahead. Oh, it was supposed to be here.
All right. That way you're gonna start on that slide? Are we waiting?
I think she's going to
Okay.
find the couple slides I had put together for this one.
All right.
I don't need to steal your thunder, but is it pretty much this year?
It has a phasing plan that we would be requesting. You have that?
We've got it.
Okay. Yes, that's it there. So, alrighty. So the applicant, other than what Uma has mentioned, is requesting to phase the construction of the project. The phasing plan was provided showing that all the utilities, the water and the electric and the sewer would be built in the first phase with the first 4 buildings, and then at a later date, he would come back and complete the construction of the infrastructure in the remaining buildings. That's the only change that we have, that we're requesting from the site plans that were submitted.
Any chance, just for the folks watching at home, that we found the slide, or we don't have it? Don't have it? Okay, all right. Well, you're talking to the board anyway, so. Is that it?
That's it.
All right, thank you, sir. Public comment. Any members of the public wish to speak to this agenda item? Okay, moving right along. Did you hear anything you want to cross-examine? Mr. Umi, did you want to cross-examine anything he said? No? All right, members of the decision-making body, you got any questions of the applicant or staff? Commissioner Martin? No? Yes?
Yeah, the only thing that I see, I mean, the operator obviously knows their business, but there isn't necessarily any parking for anybody that's not in there, I guess, going to an actual unit. And I don't know if that is something that we are encumbered with trying to decide or not. I mean, I've had storage units myself, and I know there was some common parking, particularly the one in Jonesville. But for the most part, people just kind of parked and were relatively friendly and got out of each other's way. I just bring it up in the event that anybody wanted to discuss that or had a question about it.
Yeah, so the only need for parking at a place like this in general would be to go to the main office when you're doing your leasing of the storage units. The applicant already has a storage unit on the other side of town, also called Town Center Storage, that has their office building, so the parking is provided there. So this is intended as just an extension of the storage that they've already started in the city of Newberry.
And now it's pretty much all online. It's pretty cool. You just go on and
It is.
you look at it, you know, so. Is that it, Commissioner Martin? Other questions from the dais? Commissioner Coleman?
So, where will, the office will be in building one? No, excuse me, phase one. It'd be in.
The office is gonna stay where it's at the, on 15th to 27th. So
Oh,
there'd be
okay.
one office, cause they own that one and this one. So if they got overflow there, they send them to this one.
Got it.
It's really mainly just for driving in.
Yeah, I get a code, I put it at the gate.
Gate code, and the only people with gate codes.
Okay.
The applicant just said everybody gets a gate code. When you get it from the office, you go in and out that way.
And if they want any electrical supplies, they can jump the fence and go, there you go. Hey.
All right. Other questions from the dais? Commissioner Martin?
Hey, just out of curiosity, how are you going to get the keypad on the driver's side of the vehicle? Have you figured that out?
Well, if they don't have a cell phone.
Come on.
If you don't have a cell phone, you're out of luck in America in 2023. Yeah. Okay, you feel the need to make a final argument? Ms. Oom, would you like to make a final argument?
Oh, sorry about that. Presentation is not yet embedded. But basically, the first part, the front portion is.
We'll put it on your
No worry about that. But the first phase will be building 10 to 7, which is at the front of the whole property, and then the next phase will be there. So because of that change, we have a condition for approval here. So all the other conditions were fulfilled, resolved before this presentation, but we have a new condition for approval. A building permit for the second phase of development must be issued within 5 years, that is 8/14/2028, of the adopted resolution. With that, staff find the request consistent with the City of Newberry Land Development Regulation and Comprehensive Plan and recommend the Board of Adjustment to approve Resolution 2023-41, SDP 2304.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Attorney, did we advise this is making it all three or just the one? We all three. Okay. So we'll enter into deliberations. If there are no deliberations, I'll have a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, second from Commissioner Martin. Any comments or questions from the dais on the motion on the floor? Public comments, questions on the motion on the floor? Roll call vote. Commissioner Coleman?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
No.
Commissioner Martin? Aye. 3-1 with Commissioner Farnsworth in dissent. That moves us to our last quasi-judicial item tonight. No one new has entered the room, so Scott, would you please read Resolution 2023-44/SDP 23-05 into the record?
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, serving as the Board of Adjustment of the City of Newberry, Florida, approving an application for site and development plan for a 5,000 square foot industrial building with commercial intensive CI zoning district pursuant to Section 14.12 of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations, generally located at the northeast corner of Northwest 8th Lane and Northwest 235 Terrace. Parcel number is 01894-010-004, consisting of approximately 1.28 acres lying within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, repealing resolutions in conflict, providing an effective date. The appropriate motion will be to pass Resolution 2023-44 as read by title only.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
John Paul, are you leading this?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight I'm going to be giving a presentation oral only, no visuals. We seem to be without the PowerPoint. The request before you tonight is Resolution 2023-44, SDP 2305. This is for a 5,000 square foot industrial building. This is located on Lot 4 within the Newberry Commercial Park. It's located on the northeast corner of 8th Lane and 253rd Terrace. Site's currently undeveloped. It's a green field. Sorry, I have no visuals right now if you're looking for them. Right. Oh, there are no backup slides for you either? Hmm.
Okay, let's take a pause. Let's get it printed off to the commission.
Okay. Right, which was on the commission agenda this evening. So we're missing the presentation for the best restoration, which is a site plan within Newberry Commercial Park.
We can print that off here, though.
Possibly, let me check, and so we'll,
2-minute recess.
yes.
While we figure out.
Thank you.
This one, we All right. I'll go ahead and call this Board of Adjustment meeting back to order. We apologize for the slight delay. We know you waited here a long time already. We appreciate your patience. And we now have the site plan in front of us. Miss Judy, remind me where we are are we at the very beginning of this quasi judicial when we realized we didn't have anything? So you're giving us the very beginning. Okay. Overview, and if the applicant doesn't want to make it, go right into the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the request before you tonight is for a site plan. It's for a 5,000 square foot building located within the Newberry Commercial Park. The Newberry Commercial Park is generally located where the "You Are Here" icon is on the map there. Here's an aerial image of the Newberry Commercial Park, and in cyan is the subject parcel located on the northeast corner of Northwest 8th Lane and Northwest 200, it's actually 53rd Terrace, not 235th. Site is currently a green site, so no development on it. There will be improvements to the site, but only half the site. We'll get into the site plan in just a moment, but I'm going to turn it over to the applicant to give their presentation, and then we will return to complete my presentation, provide findings, and recommended motion. Thank you.
Did you have a PowerPoint that we were able to show, or did that get lost in the shuffle?
Mr. Ray, I'd just like to make a few comments
Okay.
and answer any questions that you have. This is a very straightforward site plan. It's one of the platted lots. Oh, thanks, JP. It's one of the platted lots in the Newberry Commercial Park. It's a cleared lot. It's Lot 4, as JP mentioned. It's located on the map. It's a very simple site plan, including a 5,000 square foot building and some paving and parking. There's a pretty significant setback from the northern property line, a heavy landscape buffer that's being put in on the north side. This is going to be the home, the Newberry location of the Best Restoration, so it'll be a new business coming into town. It's going to be for their facility. They do water damage and restoration services. I learned about them before they became a client by hearing all their advertisements. So they're really busy and growing, and they're excited to be in Newberry. So this will be their operation area in the city of Newberry, to serving the public in this area and being part of your town. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be quick. So this image is the site plan. Added some graphics here to show you ingress egress on 8th Lane and 253rd. There's a vegetated buffer between Newberry Corners and this site that will be planted. The light green area is the area of the site that will remain undeveloped. The dash blue line is a fence that'll be going around the property. And roll-up doors will be on the east side of the building. I put these images up just to show some pre-engineered buildings that are already in the area in the commercial park. This building will be remarkably similar. I don't have like architectural elevations to show you because it is a pre-engineered building, and treatment can be applied to it. This is the landscape plan to show you again that landscape buffer along the north. Just a little bit more detail there. And I put this image here to address some comments that were made during the Planning and Zoning Board, as well as a condition that was attached to the approval. The gentleman to the west who owns Portaserve, if I recall correctly is the name of his business, had asked for some finishings to happen at the terminus of Northwest 253rd Terrace. Currently, there's a guardrail there as a physical barrier between the residential neighborhood and this commercial park. That guardrail will remain in place. That will not be going away. In addition, the applicant, the owner of the Best Restoration, will be finishing out the terminus of that road by providing some parking spaces there, as well as some additional landscaping. They've already agreed to that at this point. We're just carrying it forward from the Planning and Zoning Board meeting. And the owner seemed amenable to it and thought it was a great idea. Site plans were reviewed against these criteria. We found them in compliance with all these criteria. Conditions of approval resolve the outstanding comments, some minor comments on the site plan, as well as continuing to work with staff on the landscaping and improving the end of 253rd. That completes my presentation. We do find it consistent with the comp plan, land development regulations, and we do recommend approval with the conditions mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you, John Paul. I've not been contacted by anybody wishing to claim third-party intervener status. It's going to take us to public comment. Any members of the public wish to speak to this agenda item? Seeing none. It's going to take us, did you hear anything you want to cross-examine?
Mayor, no, I just wanted to state for the record, we agree with the comments and the conditions that are applied.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right. Staff, did you hear anything you want to cross-examine? All right. Member decision making body, you got any questions? Commissioner Farnsworth.
Every time I grab the microphone,
I tend
Now, just from my own education, how come this doesn't fall under regular commission meeting? Why does it fall under Board of Adjustment?
John Paul?
The way it is written into the code currently, site and development plans, the Planning and Zoning Board is a recommending body to the Board of Adjustment. The Board of Adjustment holds the power still to approve. Although the Planning and Zoning Board is a local planning agency for the city, they're only a recommending body. So the actual power of approval lies with the Board of Adjustment.
Why not the commission, though?
Why not the commission?
Why would it have to be as Board of Adjustment and not the commission, do you know?
Oh, that's a great question.
It's in the code. It's just your code, which
Just
can
the way
be
we wrote it.
changed.
I mean, my suggestion is that the reason we created an industrial park is so that these kinds of things, I didn't know why we're doing any of this. I mean, at this point, this should just be a staff level of, yes, this is an industrial park, it's an industrial building, and we're done.
That's why I was thinking the same thing, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're
It's why you have an industrial park, right?
putting something in there that wasn't
Yeah.
of this nature.
Bring the code back and change it.
Yeah, well, we've been asking for that for like
Two,
All right.
10 years.
may I make a remark to Mark Clark's comment? We're currently working on a comprehensive plan, following the comprehensive plan, the land development regulations. We're going to be cracking open that shell, so we'll have a chance to go through that in detail. If there are procedures that can be refined, updated, made better, we can do that.
Good.
So,
All right. Any other questions? Commissioner Martin? You want to know why we're here too?
Why are we here? No, I was actually just curious is this enough parking spaces for the employees' vehicles that are going to be working? Is that already considered?
Mr. Mayor, yeah, we do believe that it is sufficient. This is not a facility for the public. You know, you won't have customers coming in. This is really just for the employees. There would be a handful of trucks that may be there, and then they would park and go out and be doing service appointments throughout the day. So I would just say if there was ever an issue of deficiency of parking, I would imagine the city would want us to come back and do more spaces, but the owner thinks that this would be a sufficient amount for what he's got as far as the number of employees that'll be there. It'll be a small number.
Is that all your questions? All right. Okay. Final arguments? Final arguments? Okay, we've already been advised by our attorney. Deliberations, if there are no deliberations, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, second from Commissioner Clark. Any comments, questions, motion on the floor for the dais? Public comments, questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously, and we are adjourned. Thank you for waiting all night.